I say, my loves, peace and blessings to the family. I hope all is well with I. As for me, all is well. Just had a thunderstorm to come through down here in the dirty south, down here in Georgia. I just left from Big Dog Philly's house. Listen, if y'all have not subscribed to him, go over there and subscribe. Go over there and check out his videos. Cause baby, when I tell you the OG had a fire discussion on there, he's still on there now. He said he's gonna go on about maybe another 30 minutes. That's one reason why I kind of postponed not doing a live. Great discussion, great discussion. We need to band together, my loves. Without unity, we can't stand. You know, we playing right into the hands of the bourgeoisie. That's what I want to call them. The people that run this country, this corporation. They love to see us divided, you know. Divide and conquer. That's the name of the game, baby. They got us fighting, had us fighting amongst each other all our lives. Well, I know when I was growing up, it was always the light-skinned people who used to talk down to us darker-skinned people. You know, like you had the house nigga and the field nigga. You know, they always pitted us against each other. What I'm talking about doesn't have anything with what we're going to discuss tonight or what we're going to listen to. But I just got to put this out here, you know, what's really going on in this world. Race wars, you know, interracial wars, and gender wars. You know, it ain't enough that they want to divide us as a people. They want to divide the women and the men. See what I'm talking about? Y'all is too dumb to see it. But anyway, go over and holler at my boy, Big Dog Philly. Shout out to him. Peace and blessings and much respect to him. He's a fair man. No matter what anybody's different of opinions are, we still agree to disagree. He doesn't play that about disrespecting anyone on his panel, no matter what your belief is. That's why I respect him so much. Everybody have a say to say, you know, have free will to say what they want to say, and he doesn't allow anyone to disrespect anybody. He'll get you straight in a New York minute. Even if he don't agree with what you believe, he's still not gonna let nobody disrespect you, and he's not gonna disrespect you. That's what you call a real brother there, a real king that knows how to run his empire. What's up, cool lady? Long time no see. I was just talking about Big Dog, OG Philly. Man, he got fire discussion over there. I just left there. That's one reason why I hadn't came live yet. I was debating with him because I know how his chats go. Sometimes they go for 5, 6, 7 hours. But he said he wasn't gonna be on there all night tonight. He said he was gonna go maybe another 30 minutes. All right, love, how you been? And then he was gonna, you know, leave it alone. But when I tell you this, he was discussing some things that we need to know. I mean, not only dividing our race, they trying to divide us from white people. Because I don't have nothing against white people. I love everybody. Because we all one. But see, that's the thing. We so busy fighting amongst each other, fighting amongst other races. That we ain't doing nothing but let them damn bourgeoisie win. They ain't doing nothing but sitting back laughing and talking shit. Like looking at us. Because we all poor. We all trying to make it. And they living large off of us. They're the ones I call the bourgeoisie. You feel me? The ones that really run this place. The Rothschilds and all of them people, you know. They sit behind the scenes and play the puppet master. But I don't went on too long with that. I'm going to go ahead and get this started here. This is a spiritual studies, my love, by C.G. DAHLIN. I have no copyrights to this content, but I do have his permission. because I let him know when I first started broadcasting his lectures that I was doing it. He told me that was fine, because he's a very nice man, very nice gentleman. He has Facebook page, Instagram, and anytime he says anybody want to reach out to him and ask him anything, he will, and he does. He's a man of his word. He will not ignore you. He will respond to you. And I had carry on a nice chat with you. I respect him for that. So without further ado, this is Understanding Alchemy by C.G. DAHLIN. History, influences, spiritual context, quest for the stone. Spiritual Study Session 61. And he just did this session yesterday. This is a new one, so this is one I haven't heard. So without further ado, my loves, Understanding Alchemy.
Welcome to Spiritual Studies Session 61. This session is focusing on contextualizing, giving an understanding, giving an introduction to the subject of alchemy. The philosophy of the Spiritual Studies course is married to the history of ideas, the history of thought, and comparative religion. Alchemy is a strange topic in the way that it weaves between spiritual traditions. It is an anomalous entry upon the list of what could be considered a spiritual tradition. However, we can't talk about certain secret societies, about certain subjects and leads without it inevitably tying back into alchemy. So what is that word as an opener to the subject? Alchemy, alchemia, which is chemia, which is al, meaning the, chemia, which is the black magic. Now, don't let that get too dramatic now, because Keme, or Kim, is Egyptian for the black earth, the fertile soil that would wash up from the flooding of the Nile, that would give life to all the agriculture that would grow, and subsequently all the life to the people that benefit from said agriculture. What I like about him. The black is the blackness of the soil. So saying black magic has obviously been quite misunderstood as the meaning of that, what, idiosyncrasy.
Well, of course. It is. That's what we were just discussing over there on OG panel about this black thing. You know how they label us black. And if you go into and look in Webster's dictionary or any other dictionary, anytime you look up the word black, it's always got a negative response behind it. They've been playing puppeteer for centuries. And we still, those who are not awakened, still falling for the okie doke.
Socratic nomenclature has changed through time. This is understood as an ancient art that seeks purification of the soul, immortality in a certain misunderstanding of the word, transmutation of chemical elements, where gold is an allegory for perfection. This, of course, as many would know, exoterically be understood that alchemists were purely interested in gold, literally gold, like the Spanish inquisitors, conquering, colonizing areas to seek gold, riches. Worthy of stating once more, and as the subject goes forward, gold symbolizes perfection to the Western world and extending outward. So alchemists have been accredited in the early, with the early creation of chemistry. However, we cannot mention this subject without also having to mention how it made pharmaceuticals, medicines, and how this was equally a basis for alchemy. Also, metallurgy, of course, undermentioned, but chemistry, chemie, as it would derive into, is obviously what? The most obvious of them? All of this is saying something about understanding the materiality of the world, which is where we can get into where things turn real soupy, trippy, spiritual, because what is the material world will become our leading question. So this act of turning lead into gold symbolizes this spiritual transformation or transmutation from taking one thing and making it other. A great allegory for this is that you have a lump of coal and you have a diamond. Chemically, they are the same. Or I should say its components are the same. So what's the difference? The difference is what has been applied to, what has been made out of the same material, carbon. So in this way, you as a person, and this is the mind that we need to start entering, you as a person want to mature, want to improve, want to lessen the suffering of this world unto yourself. How can you make the coal that is you into a diamond? The inner transformation, what you could do to speed up the recipe of your creation. So this concern was rooted in the spiritual, and all the physical things were a representation of this spiritual transformation. To pull off one of the great works was viewed as an affirmation of your ascension. Say you've been working at trying to create a particular recipe, a particular make of something. You get the intuition, you get the leads, you focus and focus and focus. You go through all of this work. Alchemists were also obsessed with the right time and the right place. You needed seasons, thus the tie-in with astrology. So you needed the right time to get the right weather, to get the right substances. You had to know the right time. And also you would have to be consistent. You would have to show up. You'd have to go through the operations, the processes. And you've tried for years and years and years to get this particular substance that you're working towards. And you finally do. You see it. What a grateful thing it would be to literally see, to have something tangible that would represent your own internal improvement. The universe, God, what have you, reciprocating you, giving you this sign. Beautiful. Not so often when we have transcendent experiences within ourselves that we have something so tangible to point to. Anyhow, this inspired a vision to become perfect, to wave off all manner of limitations, diseases, mentally, physically, spiritually, and this fundamental idea that is at the root of religion, that is that we are impure. If you go to the Gnosticism talk, you'll find that this was all about how to achieve gnosis. How to achieve gnosis was how to supersede the prison, the impurity of the material existence, which this, in truth, is not far from Christianity as well. We have sinned. How, if ever, can we escape from this body of sin? And likewise with samsara, likewise with, the grievous cycle. This idea of how to escape plays perfectly into what the alchemists aspire to do. Not to all of them, but to the great majority, I should say. How can I make myself pure? You are the thing to make pure. How to do this is a whole nother discussion. How to become one with the divine mind, how to achieve perfection beauty and harmony. And I want to point this out before I forget. These ideas of this kind of deus ex machina, this miraculous substance that could give a person a kind of supernatural power or ability, right? Like, it's no wonder that Columbus and these conquistadors were looking for, say, the Fountain of Youth. When you have mythic stories like Excalibur, when you have mythic substances like mana or the Ark of the Covenant, if you were this spiritual and taking these stories so literally, then it's not a hard bet to see why people were looking for these things. And also the question is, what can we do with this matter? What is matter? And the question there is an ontological question. What is stuff made of? What can it do? What are we? What is this? And this other more very human thing where it's like, what can we take and can we improve it? Right? Can we do it better, or can we make it serve our own purposes? If you take...
You was over there to OG, wasn't you, Nicholas? I believe so, because I think I stopped by your house. Well, they was over there spitting fire over there at OG, in OG chat. Real shit. But I drop real diamonds over here too, baby.
Grapes, right? Then you can make it into wine. If you take the stalks from the fields, you can make it into bread. Our very existence is all about transmutation. We transmute everything. I'm speaking through a microphone. How many things needed to be transmuted to make this act possible? To create a knife is an act of transmutation. To sharpen it, to procure it, to give it a wield. All of these things are transmuting, augmenting materials into a particular make. So the question is, how far can we do this? It's also an epistemological question. What would we have to do to know? Which is a great experiment. A great experiment. So where can we trace this story? And of course, it goes back to our reference of the black soil, back to Egypt. And of course, the name comes up. Hermes Trismegistus, thought to be the progenitor of alchemy, which is a shifty claim, but is a good starting point. This alleged person figure, which we talked about this, before in the course, was around 2000 BC, 1900 BC. Created many written works on papyri, many of which were destroyed by Emperor Diocletian in the early 3rd century AD. However, what survives most notably is the Divine Pymander, the Asclepian Dialogues, and the Tabula Smaragdina, which is the Emerald Tablet. So these would seem to indicate a leaning towards alchemy, especially in the way of Hermeticism, which, again, we can't talk about secret societies without mentioning Hermeticism. Hermeticism is tied in with alchemy. Alchemy, as it's tied in by extension in all these secret societies to Kabbalah, or, as it's practiced with the Freemasons. The Masons are crafters. Anyhow, there is also another document, the Leyden Papyrus, that is now in a Dutch museum, that is one of the earliest known cases of what could be considered chemistry. That's something to look into for your own research if you want to. Leyden, Leyden, papyrus. So in this discussion of what is stuff, because this seems to be the inciting question that puts us down the road of alchemy, What is stuff? Which was the preoccupation of the earliest documented, recorded philosophers, the pre-Socratics. So Thales of Miletus believed that the prima materia, the material that was before all things, was water. Axiomenes believed that it was air. Heraclitus said that it was fire. And that's kind of a misnomer, because fire and flux is the ebb and flow, which is, again, a more hermetic reference. But of course, here comes the most important one for our discussion, Aristotle, saying that the four terrestrial elements were co-equally basic, and that there was a fifth substance, which had been mentioned before in history, but is mostly coined here by Aristotle, which is the aforementioned many times in the course, ether. The ether, the quintessence, the fifth element, the prima materia, which has many interpretations, and that word has been used many different ways, adding to the confusion of this conversation. So here's the question. Here is more like the belief, the fundamental leap. The leap is that we know, right? We're placing a bet that there is an achievable prima materia, and that this prima materia, this substance that is the ancestor to all substances, is, for one, again, achievable, believable, and capable of miraculousness, basically, right? Like, to be able to find that, to make it, or to restore it, because the idea is that it's latent in all substances and all elements. It's in there. So how can we distill it, provided that it's there, right? And that's the alleged philosopher's stone, which stone isn't a great way to put it, but if it could be had, this thing beyond all things, this thing that unifies all things, what would that mean? And so, going off this Aristotelian philosophical system, here we go. And this is where alchemy really takes the shoot, where from the Western end, which we're going to talk about beyond the Western end. So there are many ideas that are really interesting in this matter theory, that the earth kind of fruits these minerals, it grows them, one of which is gold. It creates it in time, it's a natural budding of the earth, which is pretty beautiful, poetic. So the alchemist would then ask, can we speed this up? If we could make the gestation period shorter, and if metals could be procured through manual means. And so the question here, and this could seem selfish, right, for riches or for whatever, but it is an earnest question. Can it be done? It doesn't have to be greedy to ask that question. And also, it has this subsequent subliminal thing about letting us know what we can and can't do. But this act of working with metals obviously goes back into the Bronze Age, right? And the Greeks were smelting copper in at least 2200 BCE. And so, you had jewelers and you had lapidary work long into the ancient past. This is not solely derivative of alchemy. However, it is the tie with alchemy, right? But like I also mentioned, in whatever acts, making dyes, making certain substances from crushing shells, harvesting certain minerals for uses in making paints, I mean, or discovering that urine could be used as a mordant for clothes to dye them with. These are all just the scientific method, so to speak, messing around and finding out. So this is part of this experimentation, and we as a human society have always been doing it. But as soon as we get this spiritual twang about us messing with things, this specific act of messing with things for the spiritual aim or to achieve the prima materia, that's when we call it alchemy. So in China, there is DAHLIN, which is noted as the first Taoist pope, and this is just after AD, said to have been born in 35 AD. And this specific pope, which is such a weird way of putting it, Taoist pope, stepped away from ruling in just about every respect, declined all services to the people, and just studied what we are calling alchemy and meditation and purity. And of course, we can't talk about Taoism without talking about the alleged alchemical works of Lao Tzu, which is this, there have been many supernatural claims given to Lao Tzu, the creator of Taoism, for those that aren't in the know. And there are all these mentions too, on this side of the world, the elixir of life, which in some instances it would seem to grant immortality, but in other instances it is a substance and a hypothesized, a proposed substance that will extend your life and extend your youth, will basically nerf aging. And so it's not too far off from this fountain of youth kind of take that this sort of thing exists. An interesting note here is that the Taoists have a fivefold matter theory. So they have a different matter theory than the Western world. The Western world does have five, kind of, but they are not the exact five of the Taoist and the Eastern alchemy and elemental understanding. But that's not my job to get into just specifically talking about matter theory today. We're talking about the history of this and the ideas. So the practical application of alchemy, more noted in pharmaceutical and works of medicine. And this started with the idea of creating an exterior material. So to mix gold, to mix cinnabar, which is mercury sulfite, to mix jade, to mix it with herbs, to mess with these things. And in the idea that some substances are very yang, masculine, and some substances are very yin. So if you have a body that is full of a lot of yang, naturally you have made it full of a lot of yang energy, then the idea was to throw a heavy yin energy into your body via consumption, and that this would shoot you up. That this would, if you could achieve equilibrium with that other radical, then you would become transmuted. And you had to try it. You had to try it. And of course, in reflection, this seems silly, right? Because you're consuming heavy metals and mercury. I mean, this is how we learned that that's not a good idea. So this was fatal. And for reasons why it was fatal was a matter of speculation at the time. However, some things to note before we move on from the Eastern world in this respect, or specifically from China, is that eventually this Weitan, W-A-I-T-A-N, art, was replaced by Naitan, N-A-I-T-A-N, finding the inner elixir versus the outer elixir. This happened around the 6th century. So then comes what we recognize as more meditative, more soul mindfulness seeking methods in the religious spiritual world. You know, but from this time of this exterior seeking, and from this time of the movement into interior seeking, we got the art of feng shui. We got the art of Weitan, of Neitan, and most notably, the invention of gunpowder as something of a byproduct from this alchemical seeking. And the implication of that is obviously huge, right? The implication of going through this alchemical journey and discovering gunpowder, look what the West did with it. look what was made out of what was made, you see. Something that started with a spiritual aspiration. So in India, we can see this influence from what can be called Indian alchemy into the Western world via the invasion of Alexander the Great circa 325 BC. So this would already have been an ensuing ideas of the Greek, Egyptian, mixed mash alchemy. Now you're introducing the mixed mash of Indian alchemy, which is coined as Rasayana, R-S-A-Y-N-Y-A-N-A. Rasa meaning nectar, perhaps, meaning juice, meaning mercury. Yana, art, path. Rasa can also mean essence, so this could be a translation meaning the path of essence. This could also be translated into its older form, proto-chemistry, or, you know, its other form, I should say, Rasanastra, or Rasa Astra, Astara, which is the science of mercury. Mercury, mind you, is a substance that is named directly after the deity. The attributes of that deity, Mercury. So that alone is a subject could be a discourse of its own spiritual studies session. But this Rasayana seemed to mostly focus, again, on the restorative attributes, the messing with medicines, pharmaceuticals, drugs, what have you. And things like gold were in the mix. How to give youth back to the aging. And again, this is an attempt to alleviate suffering, right? And this goes back to the shamanic. If you have been following the course this long, then you know that this is a part of the spiritual religious history of humankind at its most core. How to relieve suffering, how to understand death. This is so strong in the study of alchemy. So they say that this Rasayana began around 1200 BC and extends out into Ayurvedic medicine, extending lifespan, working with what herbs do what. And still to this day, you still see people slanging, people selling, people buying, you know, authentic herbology from the Eastern world for purposes of medicine. What do you turn to when Western medicine is letting you down? You turn to the East, which is this herbology, which has been formed from the spiritual pursuit that was this alchemy. So it works itself into lifestyle and dietary and supplemental use. And so it's not so much about seeking this great and elusive idea, very abstract idea of the prima materia. And it's not to say that they weren't seeking some sort of elixir that had some tremendous qualities, but it doesn't quite have that supernatural flair that the prima materia, the philosopher's stone, does. There's a very famous laboratory that was called the Rasashala, which is said to have had documents that, or did have documents that show a procedure that transmutes base metals into gold. So there was this equal traction in India as well, this idea or this work, or trying your hand at this matter theory. Can this thing be done? And so it could be thought of as, here was something that was proposed across the ancient world that everybody's going to get their hands on, or this could be a natural question that was spontaneously erupting out of the human psyche during this time. And you can't talk about this conversation without talking about the Islamic world and the Islamic Golden Age. The concrescence, the collection of all of these things I've just discussed, what was happening in the Eastern world, what was happening in the Western world, the great works of Galen and Dioscorides, they all coming together in Jabir, or what is translated as Gerber, Geber, when it hits the Western world. Jabir is going to collect all of these different recipes that are going on, and he's going to put them together in the Al-Razi, with Al-Razi, alongside Al-Razi, and alongside, I don't want to get too lost in the names today, but you have over 800 compound recipes, simple and compound recipes in these collections from the Islamic Golden Age. So you have Al-Razi, you have the very mythic Jabir, you have this great collection that's coming out of the Islamic world. And during the 13th to the 16th centuries, Europe was very active in translating these works. And by no means does this exclude all the other things that are going on in the Islamic Golden Age. You have the natural philosophy growing, you have medicine growing, you have all works of astronomy growing, and what are great precursors to science, mathematics. It is a blossom, an absolute boom of the idea of human history. So when it comes to kind of the consolidation and the more concretion of what we call alchemy, it has to be in great thanks to the Islamic Golden Age. And the Crusades show up around, they began in 1096. And this act, much like Alexander the Great with India, is yet again mixing the pool ever more when it comes to what people know mutually about this subject, what things were being worked on by Jabir, and how it's being brought to Europe. Oh. So let's get back onto the Western world in a certain way. Albertus Magnus, Thomas Aquinas, these names would be very strong in trying to consolidate the inlatent pagan ideas, or pre-Christian ideas, and the growing need of Christianity to be validated. So how to marry the tenets of Christianity with the tenets of alchemy without it turning heretical. And so those are some strong names. How to take what Aristotelian theory was saying and make it Christian. And that was a big task for Albert and Aquinas. And so you have these many characters that pop up, because this is really where the height of alchemy.
You see how the evil one be trying to do? Now he know I sent him to swap in my tickets to the store. Now he know most time when I'm in the bathroom I be smoking, because he claims he can't stand, marijuana smoke. So I go in the bathroom and I smoke weed. Now he know when I have this speaker and this laptop open in here in the room, he know I'm recording. And then I got it on TV so he can see the chat right there on the TV. He gonna holler about your tickets up there. I said, well, okay, you can live with that. I would have got them when I came back. So he taking slick, see. But I see y'all people do this shit.
is coming from, is during this time, after 1000 all the way to about 16,000, is where we're seeing the great number of works pop out. You know, before it's like, is this alchemy? You know, just playing, is this? But then at this point, this is what we're calling alchemy within the span of this rough 600 years. Hard-nosed Western alchemy. And Raymond Lully is a big name of this era, and who got ripped off quite a bit, because there are over 480 treatises that are given the name Raymond Lully. So it's been a pseudonym beyond Raymond Lully, it would seem. It almost would make it seem like a meme, because if you didn't want your name attached to something, then it just became, okay, throw it to Raymond Lully, which is, you know, that deserves its own storytelling right there. He had this in his lifetime too. You can see how much Christianity did really involve itself with the alchemical journey, because Raymond became absolutely affixed. Well, first he got his heart broken, and then he turned to religion, and then he became an alchemist, and then he used the rest of his life to travel all over the Islamic world and to basically refute the teachings of Muhammad. So you can see how at this point as well, Christianity is kind of putting a cap on the alchemical journey. Now, I don't want to spend too much time there. My big initiative right now is to give the historical context, and then we're going to talk about the ideas at the cap, okay, at the end. You have in 1350 you have John of Rupiskissa, who is trying to create a substance that prevents decay in the body. And this is, I'm kind of giving you a gag reel here. So he's looking for something that will preserve, right? And everything decays. Metals rust. If you let wine sit out, it turns into vinegar. However, if you can find the water of life, or the burning water, which is one of these great alchemical terms, if you can distill the purity of the essence out of wine and just get its essence, then you'll notice that it's preserving. And this is alcohol. Creates moonshine. And this is the seeking, right? This is messing around and finding out. And so if you put something in alcohol, it's preserved. Alcohol doesn't go bad if it's pure, right? And so this is truly miraculous, honestly. I mean, we know what moonshine can do to you now. But to think about that, you just came up with this thing, that you were betting, and this, you discovered it, right? You came out with it. This, you thought, with the hype of this, ability of the substance, this was called the fifth essence, the quinta essentia, or in other words, the quintessence. The finest, purest, and most concentrated essence of a thing. Moonshine, baby. So thank alchemy for that. You know, something that preserves sincerely. And think of the, medical, again, that plays into the medical field. The beneficial attributes of alchemy, cleansing wounds and killing bacteria. I mean, that again, in this time, in this context, was miraculous, magical. Who knows what we could do with this thing? And you just don't know. You don't know what you could do with these things. So now comes the era where things start to turn sour. And This was because you have like such great things that are coming up, and we'll talk about that later. You have such great things that are being discovered and such notable things that are being done. You know, humanity is high off of what can be done with the stuff. And now you have people who are attracted to this. It's power. It's power, and power will always corrupt. You know, you start off something with great intentions, and then it just gets too much, and everybody comes in, they ruin it. It's like Woodstock, or you know, endless examples. I don't want to go down there. Anyway, so people would make good money out of claiming they were alchemists, out of claiming that they could do things, and then investors were all too ready to throw them a chunk of change for it, and then they just dip. So then people are like, I don't know about these alchemists anymore, because it seemed that it got overrun with charlatans, which is the easiest, simplest, and quickest way that I can put this era in history. So you do have sincere people who are sincerely on the alchemical journey. And then you have the charlatans, and they're gonna pee in the pool for everybody. And then you have, for instance, England and Christendom forbidding alchemy on the pain of death. Although the Pope, still during this time, who's making it illegal, you know, punished with the pain of death, is still studying alchemy inside the Vatican for means of enriching the church. Because again, and here's where the greed thing comes in. If you can procure gold, right? Genuinely, people believe you can transmute base metals into gold. That is riches for the church. So of course they're going to underhandedly be into it. I secretly want to do a whole spiritual studies session on just like these kinds of things about the church. I'd really love doing that. So even if you were the most sincere alchemist during this time, taking your own road, which here I want to take some time to talk about an idea right now. What is really unique about this is that although Christianity was trying to co-opt alchemy, you know, we do see several figures that are being co-opted by Christianity. There's another famous alchemist who was obsessed and made his journey all about trying to prevent the suffering of the ensuing apocalypse via alchemy. But in all sincerity, the alchemical journey, regardless of if it was aligned with Taoism, Indian Rasayana, you are alone. And what I mean by this is that this is an undertaking that you take alone. This doesn't have to do with any religion necessarily. This is a quest. Again, I want to bring it back to its initial idea because we can get lost in all this, you know. You want to achieve your soul. You want to know thyself. You want the pearl from the depths. You want to know what's going on, who you are. You want to achieve that. And you want to put honest work into that. And this is a method that holds promise and that doesn't rule over you, that you can take on the work if you have the conviction. And so the art of making alchemy so arcane and so undecipherable and so riddled with nomenclature and symbolism and very, very occult looking diagrams was an act of only the sincere, only the highest achieved, only those,
I dropped fire over here, baby girl. Prophet and Tina, they gonna be here. These my number ones here, my A1 day ones. But Prophet show gonna be here. Prophet rock with me for 5 hours that last night. That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm here for. This is what my life purpose is. To drop these jewels, to raise the conscience of the collective, baby. That's what I'm here for. Just we all a community, just like OG said. We here to help each other and support each other. We here to wake these fools up. That's what we're trying to do. Each one of us have our own way of doing it on our platforms. As long as we get the word out, we know we don't deal what the Most High want us to do.
Occurring, colonizing areas to seek gold, riches. Worthy of stating once more, and as the subject goes forward, gold symbolizes perfection to the Western world and extending outward. So alchemists have been accredited in the early, with the early creation of chemistry. However, we cannot mention this subject without also having to mention how it made pharmaceuticals, medicines, and how this was equally a basis for alchemy. Also, metallurgy, of course, undermentioned, but chemistry, chemie, as it would derive into, is obviously what, the most obvious of them? All of this is saying something about understanding the materiality of the world, which is where we can get into where things turn real soupy, trippy, spiritual, because what is the material world will become our leading question. So this act of turning lead into gold symbolizes this spiritual transformation or transmutation from taking one thing and making it other. A great allegory for this is that you have a lump of coal and you have a diamond. Chemically, they are the same. Or I should say its components are the same. So what's the difference? The difference is what has been applied to, what has been made out of the same material, carbon. So in this way, you as a person, and this is the mind that we need to start entering, you.
I just dropped the link down in there if anybody want to, just come up, and just chill out and listen to the lecture, because Prophet and Tina, they know how I am. I start out with one session and I end up playing 2 or 3 more sessions because I told them I'm at your service. I'm at y'all service. It's my purpose to serve y'all. If y'all want to hear something else, I play it. Just let me know, because I'm all about everything is spiritual to me, because everything is connected. We all connected. Everything. From the trees to the plants to the animals, all of us. We supposed to be here to love each other. That's how we raise the vibrations. That's the highest vibration, love and music. So that's what I'm here for. I'm just out here trying to push that knowledge. So I mean, whatever. I'm all, like I say, all this includes esoteric, occult, spirituality. It all ties in. But what I'm here to do is give you what the inner knowing of it is. See, what the church didn't want you to know.
Person want to mature, want to improve, want to lessen the suffering of this world unto yourself. How can you make the coal that is you into a diamond? The inner transformation of what you could do to speed up the recipe of your creation. So this concern was rooted in the spiritual, and all the physical things were a representation of this spiritual transformation. To pull off one of the great works was viewed as an affirmation of your ascension. Say you've been working at trying to create a particular recipe, a particular make of something. You get the intuition, you get the leads, you focus and focus and focus. You go through all of this work. Alchemists were also obsessed with the right time and the right place. You needed seasons, thus the tie-in with astrology. So you needed the right time.
Did I just say that? Last night, if Prophet Mike would work, he would tell you every time I said something, the Most High didn't do nothing but send spirit through here to back me up.
Get the right weather, to get the right
it.
substances. You have.
I say everything tie in. That's why I have in my description box astrology, divination, occult, esoteric. It all ties in. These are the things that were hidden, the things that they didn't want you to know. But if you really had any sense, like they say they have, the Christians, it's like I'm not bad because I was raised a Christian. My father was a minister, so I'm a PK. But I always had, it's something about us chosen was we always knew something from something. All our life was different, We just knew things that other people didn't know. Because I never fit in with anyone. I was always a loner. I always was by myself, even to this day. So I can't stand being around certain people because I'm an empath. I pick up energy quick, and I can't stand being around bad energy. Because one thing about me, if I ever just like say see you somewhere, meet your friend, if your spirit just ain't, if your vibes ain't right, I don't fuck with you.
To know the right time.
You got to open
and
your mouth.
Also, you would have to be consistent. You would have to show up. You'd have to go through the operations, the processes. And you've tried for years and years and years to get this particular substance that you're working towards. And you finally do. You see it. What a grateful thing it would be to literally see, to have something tangible that would represent your own internal improvement. The universe, God, what have you, reciprocating you, giving you this sign.
What the late rest in peace Tupac Shakur, what he say? He said something about that gut, when your gut feeling just telling you something. When that gut telling you something, just believe what it's trying to tell you.
Beautiful. Not so often when we have transcendent experiences within ourselves that we have something so tangible to point to. Anyhow, this inspired a vision to become perfect, to wave off all manner of limitations, diseases, mentally, physically, spiritually, and this fundamental idea that is at the root of religion, that is that we are impure. If you go to the Gnosticism talk, you'll find that this was all about how to achieve gnosis. How to achieve gnosis was how to supersede the prison, the impurity of the material existence, which this, in truth, is not far from Christianity as well. We have sinned. How, if ever, can we escape from this body of sin?
Break it down.
And likewise with samsara, likewise with, the grievous cycle. This idea of how to escape plays perfectly into what the alchemists aspire to do. Not to all of them.
Can you hear me? Tina, can you hear me? If y'all can hear me, put a 1 in the chat. Tina said she couldn't hear me. You must have had me on mute. Everybody else, I think, can hear.
To the great majority, I should say. How can I make myself pure? Okay. You are the thing to make pure. How to do this is a whole nother discussion.
Everybody else can hear me. It must be something wrong with your phone, love.
How to become one with the divine mind, how to achieve perfection, beauty, and harmony. And I want to point this out before I forget. These ideas of this kind of deus ex machina, this miraculous substance that could give a person a kind of supernatural power. Or
he was too conscious. To tell you the truth, I believe the government had something to do with his murder. I better not say that too much. I'm too loud on here.
ability, right? Like, it's no wonder that Columbus and these conquistadors were looking for, say, the fountain of youth. When you have mythic stories like Excalibur, when you have mythic substances like mana or the Ark of the Covenant, if you were this spiritual and taking these stories so literally, then it's not a hard bet to see why people were looking for these things. And also the question is, what can we do with this matter? What is matter? And the question there is an ontological question.
Yeah, I dropped it
what
down
is
there,
stuff
Prophet.
made
I'll drop
of?
it again.
What can it do? What are we? What is this? And this other more very human thing where it's like, what can we take and can we improve it? Right? Can we do it better, or can we make it serve our own purposes? If you take grapes, right, then you can make it into wine. If you take the stalks from the fields, you can make it into bread. Our very existence is all about transmutation. We transmute everything.
That's right, because we energy.
I'm speaking through a microphone. How many things needed to be transmuted to make this act possible? To create a knife is an act of transmutation. To sharpen it, to procure it, to give it a wield. All of these things are transmuting, augmenting materials into a particular make. Right. So the question is, how far can we do this? It's also an epistemological question. What would we have to do to know? Which is a great experiment. A great experiment. So where can we trace this story? And of course, it goes back to our reference of the black soil, back to Egypt. And of course, the name comes up. Hermes Trismegistus, thought to be the progenitor of alchemy, which is a shifty claim, but is a good starting point. This alleged person figure, which we talked about this, before in the course, was around 2000 BC, 1900 BC. Created many written work.
Prophet, I dropped the link down in there twice. I'll drop it again if you missed it.
Some papyri, many of which were destroyed by Emperor Diocletian in the early 3rd century AD. However, what survives most notably is the Divine Pymander, the Asclepian Dialogues, and the Tabula Smaragdina, which is the Emerald Tablet.
Back up with it. Well, it ain't gonna hurt
so
nothing.
These would seem to indicate a leaning towards alchemy, especially in the way of Hermeticism, which, again, we can't talk about secret societies without mentioning Hermeticism. Hermeticism is tied in with alchemy. Alchemy, as it's tied in by extension in all these secret societies to Kabbalah, or, as it's practiced with the Freemasons. The Masons are crafters.
Tell the truth.
Anyhow, there is also another document, the Leyden Papyrus, that is now in a Dutch museum, that is one of the earliest known cases of what could be considered chemistry. That's something to look into for your own research if you want to. Leyden, Leyden, papyrus. So in this discussion of what is stuff, because this seems to be the inciting question that puts us down the road of alchemy. What is stuff? Which was the preoccupation of the earliest documented, recorded philosophers, the pre-Socratics. So Thales of Miletus believed that the prima materia, the material that was before all things, was water. Axiomenes believed that it was air. Heraclitus said that it was fire. And that's kind of a misnomer, because
what's going on, Lubsy?
Fire and flux and flux is the ebb and flow, which is, again, a more hermetic reference.
Peace and blessings.
But of course,
love.
here comes the most important one for our discussion, Aristotle, saying that the four terrestrial elements were co-equally basic and that there was...
It say you backstage. I don't see your, it usually come up here where it say, I can add you to the stream, but I don't see it. Oh, no. See. I tell you, every so often when I start dropping these gems, what happened? They want to get technical difficulties. Let me see what's going on. I drop down and then I drop it again and then come back up. Prophet.
Fifth substance, which had been mentioned before in history, but is mostly coined here by Aristotle, which is the aforementioned many times in the course, ether. The ether, the quintessence, the fifth element, the prima materia, which has many interpretations and that word has been used many different ways, adding to the confusion of this conversation. So here's the question. Here is more like the belief, the fundamental leap. The leap is that we know, right? We're placing a bet that there is an achievable
I think I know what's
prima
going on,
materia.
Prophet. Let me check something out here.
And that this prima materia, this substance that is the ancestor to all substances,
I think I know what's happening.
Is, for one, again, achievable, believable, and capable of miraculousness, basically, right? Like, to be able to find that,
try it again,
to make it, or to restore it, because the idea is that it's latent in all substances and all elements. It's in there. So how can we distill it?
No,
provided that it's there, right?
I don't think I had the layout right. I just changed the layout so you could come up. So that's why I say try it again and see what's going on.
And that's the alleged philosopher's stone, which stone isn't a great way to put it, but if it could be had, this thing beyond all things, this thing that unifies all things, what would that mean?
You know what, Prophet? I don't know if I have to use, do I have to drop? See, I didn't copy a new link. I've been using the link that I used last night. I don't know if I have to copy a different link every night or what. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna copy this new link and then drop it down and then see what happens.
And so going off this Aristotelian philosophical system,
you know I'm still new to this, I'm still learning. We learn every day.
Go. And this is where alchemy really takes the shoot, where from the Western end, which we're going to talk about beyond the Western end. So there are many ideas that are really interesting in this matter theory, that the earth kind of fruits these minerals, it grows them, which one of which is gold. It creates it in time, it's a natural budding of the earth, which is pretty beautiful, poetic. So the alchemist would then ask, can we speed this up? If we could make the gestation period shorter, and if metals could be procured through manual means. And so the question here, and this could seem selfish, right, for riches or for whatever, but it is an earnest question. Can it be done? It doesn't have to be greedy to ask that question. And also, it has this subsequent subliminal thing about letting us know what we can and can't do. But this act of working with metals, obviously,
you see what they say about them subliminals? They be trying to look, they be sending subliminals, brainwashing people.
Goes back into the Bronze Age, right? And the Greeks were smelting copper in at least 2200 BCE. And so, you had jewelers and you had lapidary work long into the ancient past. This is not solely derivative of.
Yeah, Prophet. I see that's a different link every time I go live. This one I just dropped in. Try this link I just dropped, Prophet.
Alchemy. However, it is the tie with alchemy, right? But like I also mentioned, in whatever acts, making dyes, making certain substances from crushing shells, harvesting certain minerals for uses in making paints. I mean, or discovering that urine could be used as a mordant for clothes to dye them with.
Ain't that something?
These are all just the scientific method, so to speak, messing around and finding out.
We still won't let
so
up, Prophet.
This is part of this experimentation, and we as a human society have always been doing it. But as soon as we get this spiritual twang about us messing with things, this specific act of messing with things for the spiritual aim or to achieve the prima materia, that's when we call it alchemy. So in China, there is Cheng Tao Ling.
Oh, so you can hear it? Because I didn't even see it on Prophet's. I see his message up there on my TV, but I don't see it here on the laptop.
Which is noted as the first Taoist Pope. And this is just after AD, said to have been born in 35 AD. And this specific Pope, which is such a weird way of putting it, Taoist Pope, stepped away from ruling in just about every respect, declined all services to the people, and just studied what we are calling alchemy. And
Prophet, I don't even see you here on StreamYard. I can see you up there on TV and YouTube, but I don't see you here on my laptop. Okay, I got you. I see you now.
Meditation and purity. And of course, we can't talk about Taoism without talking about the alleged alchemical works of Lao Tzu, which is this, there have been many supernatural claims given to Lao Tzu, the creator of Taoism.
I was stopping it. I would pause it while I was talking. That's what was going on, babe.
Those that aren't in the know. And there are all these mentions too, on this side of the world, the elixir of life.
How about that? That's better.
Which in some instances it would seem to grant immortality, but in other instances it is a substance and a hypothesized, a proposed substance that will extend your life and extend your youth, will basically nerf aging. And so it's not too far off from this fountain of youth kind of take that this sort of thing exists. An interesting note here is that the Taoists have a fivefold matter theory. So they have a different matter theory than the Western world. The Western world does have five kind of, but they are not the exact five of the Taoist and the Eastern alchemy and elemental understanding. But that's not my job to get into just specifically talking about matter theory today. We're talking about the history of this and the ideas. So the practical application of alchemy, more noted in pharmaceutical and works of medicine. And this started with the idea of creating an exterior material. So to mix gold, to mix cinnabar.
Is it still going in and out? Sorry though. It probably was when I was pausing it to talk to Prophet. That's what probably when it was going in and out. You were thinking it was going in and out. Because I would pause it, then I'll to talk to Prophet or someone in the chat. Then I start playing it again.
Which is mercury sulfate. to mix jade, to mix it with herbs, to mess with these things. And in the idea that some substances are very yang, masculine, and some substances are very yin. So if you have a body that is full of a lot of yang, naturally you have made it full of a lot of yang energy, then the idea was to throw a heavy yin energy into your body via consumption, and that this would shoot you up. That this would, if you could achieve equilibrium with that other radical, then you would become transmuted. And you had to try it. You had to try it. And of course, in reflection, this seems silly, right? Because you're consuming heavy metals and mercury. I mean, this is how we learned that that's not a good idea.
Mm-hmm.
So was fatal. And for reasons why it was fatal was a matter of speculation at the time. However, some things to note before we move on from the Eastern world in this respect, or specifically from China, is that eventually this Weitan, W-A-I-T-A-N art,
salute to you, Red Squid,
was replaced by Natan, N-A-I-T-A-N, finding the inner elixir versus the outer elixir. This happened around the 6th century. So then comes what we recognize as more meditative, more soul mindfulness seeking methods in the religious spiritual world. You know,
Red Squid, you know, I do you like I do Prophet. I drop that link down. You come on up and just sit down and chill. You know, every so often I stop the recording. You know, give me your input. I would love to have your input on some of this info.
But from this time of this exterior seeking, and from this time of the movement into interior seeking, we got the art of Feng Shui. We got the art of Weitan, of Natan, and most notably, the invention of gunpowder as something of a byproduct from this alchemical seeking. And the implication of that is obviously huge, right? The implication of going through this alchemical journey and discovering gunpowder, look what the West did with it.
All right, love.
Look what was made out of what was made, you see. Something that started with a spiritual aspiration. So in India, we can see this influence from what can be called Indian alchemy into the Western world via the invasion of Alexander the Great circa 325 BC. So this would already have been an ensuing ideas of the Greek, Egyptian, mixed mash alchemy. Now you're introducing the mixed mash of Indian alchemy, which is coined as Rasayana, R-S-A-Y-N-Y-A-N-A. Rasa meaning nectar, perhaps, meaning juice, meaning mercury. Yana, art, path. Rasa can also mean essence, so this could be a translation meaning the path of essence. This could also be translated into its older form, proto-chemistry, or, you know, its other form, I should say, Rasanastra, or Rasa Astra, Astara, which is the science of mercury. Mercury, mind you, is a substance that is named directly after the deity. The attributes of that deity, Mercury. So that alone is a subject, could be a discourse of its own spiritual studies session. But this Rasayana seemed to mostly focus, again, on the restorative attributes, the messing with medicines, pharmaceuticals, drugs, what have you. And things like gold were in the mix. How to give youth back to the aging. And again, this is an attempt to alleviate suffering, right? And this goes back to the shamanic. If you have been following the course this long, then you know that this is a part of the spiritual religious history of humankind, at its most core. How to relieve suffering, how to understand death. This is so strong in the study of alchemy. So they say that this Rasayana began around 1200 BC and extends out into Ayurvedic medicine, extending lifespan, working with what herbs do what. And still to this day, you still see people slanging, people selling, people buying, authentic herbology from the Eastern world for purposes of medicine. What do you turn to when Western medicine is letting you down? You turn to the East, which is this herbology, which has been formed from the spiritual pursuit that was this alchemy. So it works itself into lifestyle and dietary and supplemental use. And so it's not so much about seeking this great and elusive idea, very abstract idea of the prima materia. And it's not to say that they weren't seeking some sort of elixir that had some tremendous qualities, but it doesn't quite have that supernatural flair that the prima materia, the philosopher's stone, does. There's a very famous laboratory that was called the Rasashala, which is said to have had documents that, or did have documents that show a procedure that transmutes base metals into gold. So there was this equal traction in India as well, this idea, or this work, or trying your hand at this matter theory. Can this thing be done? And so it could be thought of as, here was something that was proposed across the ancient world that everybody's gonna get their hands on, or this could be a natural question that was spontaneously erupting out of the human psyche during this time. And you can't talk about this conversation without talking about the Islamic world and the Islamic Golden Age. The concrescence, the collection of all of these things I've just discussed, what was happening in the Eastern world, what was happening in the Western world, the great works of Galen and Dioscorides, they all coming together in Jabir, or what is translated as Gerber, Geber, when it hits the Western world. Jabir is going to collect all of these different recipes that are going on, and he's going to put them together in the Al-Razi, with Al-Razi, alongside Al-Razi, and alongside, I don't want to get too lost in the names today, but you have over 800 compound recipes, simple and compound recipes in these collections from the Islamic Golden Age.
And when you think about it, you said what they call compound, what they call apothecaries, what they used to, they call them compound pharmacists now, where they have that little bowl in the thing and they crush up the stuff. That's what he's talking about. So even that's what I'm talking, they demonize everything, snake and all that stuff. But it's mighty strange that they got that snake wrapped around that rod that symbolizes medicine.
So you have Al-Razi, you have the very mythic Jabir, you have this great collection that's coming out of the Islamic world. And during the 13th to the 16th centuries, Europe was very active in translating these works. And by no means does this exclude all the other things that are going on in the Islamic Golden Age. You have the natural philosophy growing, you have medicine growing, you have all works of astronomy growing, and what are great precursors to science, mathematics. It is a blossom, an absolute boom of the idea of human history.
Listen, I have wondered if y'all want me to play this one next. Now I'm looking at, I'm gonna give y'all a cap on what this one. That this is on. This is by the same guy by CG. This is the Yoruba folk religion, spiritual I can't have, I've been trying to pronounce it. Syncretism, cosmonaga, cosmo, cosmogony. I can't pronounce it, y'all. I'm gonna spell it. COSMOGONY. Divinities, snake myth, and global impact. Okay, now this is his spiritual study session 44. Thus far, in this course, Africa has largely gone unmentioned. Outside of common knowledge, the Yoruba are a people that predate the moves of Abrahamic religions and have been alongside their flourishing while intermingling with them and maintaining their ancient beliefs. Now that's one is it says diving into this spiritual tradition illuminates us as to the interconnectedness of beliefs found across the world in both ancient and modern religions. Strangely enough, the Yoruba have ties to the Aboriginal Australian and the Mayans of South America, all while having an interesting perspective on topics held within Christian dogmatism. So, would y'all be interested in hearing that one next after this? Let me know. Put a one in the chat if you would be interested in that.
Salute to you, Queen. Salute, Prophet.
Much love to you, love. Hey, I am honored to have you here on the panel with me tonight. You know, most I just be here listening. You know, like I was just, sometimes I stop here and there, to put my little 2 cents in. But I know, you're a highly enlightened individual, highly enlightened soul, my brother.
Salute. Likewise. All you got to do is ask for real. If I could do it, I'll be there.
Oh, so y'all want to hear that one? Did you hear what I just was talking about the next session that I will play if y'all want to hear it?
Well, and whatever the people say, if they agree to it.
I mean, what would you do? Oh,
I just came. I just got back inside.
Okay, well listen. Well, they say in one, but I'm gonna read it to you because, like I say, I know how deep you are. See, this one because this is not the one I'm playing now, but I will play this one after this one finishes. This is he does spiritual studies, and I have his permission to broadcast these because I communicate with him. CG DAHLIN. It says that thus far in his courses, he hadn't mentioned much about Africa. So this next one is Africa has largely gone unmentioned. Outside of common knowledge, the Yoruba are a people that predate the moves of Abrahamic religions, which is what they call, Christianity and all that.
Okay, now.
It have been alongside their flourishing while intermingling with them and maintaining their ancient beliefs. So diving into this spiritual tradition illuminates us as to the interconnectedness of beliefs found across the world in both ancient and modern religions. Strangely enough, but see, he be being sarcastic when he say things like this. The Yoruba have ties to the Aboriginal Australians and the Mayans of South America, all while having an interesting perspective on topics held within Christian dogmatism.
Hey, that sound like a great topic.
So you want me to go ahead and stop this one? We go ahead and start on this one. I think that'll be good. I think so.
Okay.
What y'all feel about that in the chat? Y'all want me to just go ahead and air this one that I just talked about? Put a one in the chat if y'all want me to do that. I can always come back and broadcast this one another time. But I feel like this one will be a little bit better. That's my opinion. Prophet, what you think? I know he's gonna be like, whatever. I'm gonna go ahead and do this.
You said one. You got 1, 2 ones.
Okay, I'll go ahead and do that one then. Because I'm on my other device here, so that way when I can go on this one, I can go ahead and have it where I can get it started here. Yeah, I see them dropping a one in the chat there now. Hold tight here. I'm going to have to mute this for a minute because I don't want to bless y'all.
Salutes to the chat and the panel. Yoruba. Let me see what I know about Yoruba off the rip. They have very, very interesting artifacts on their statue tip. Um, you know, a lot of Africa got a lot of things stolen that can be considered Yoruba. I used to work in a museum, and the whole entire African section was stolen artifacts. Man, I swear.
Well, I believe that. I believe it. Because you know, if you notice, that's why I say everything about movies. See, that's always been fascinated with movies. Movies always have an underlying truth, you know. Just like in Black Panther, when he went in there and he stole the artifacts out that museum, and he told him that everything that was in there was
Right.
stolen. Oh, see what I'm saying?
Yes. Wow. Right.
See, I
Yeah.
connect everything. But I see them dropping that one in the chat. So I'm gonna go ahead and get this started for y'all, love.
44. Today's focus is on getting an overview and acquaintance on the Yoruba folk religion. As with these sessions that are focusing on cultures or peoples or histories that might not be within people's know-how, we'll start with a brief.
What I like about him, like he have his beliefs. Like he don't believe in God. He a straight up atheist now. He don't believe. He don't believe it. But see, I believe in source now. But I know that Bible was already remixed. All that Jesus. I know that was a mix up. I know all that was a. See, that's why I like broadcasting these lectures. You know, I'm gonna give you what the real deal going on, the inner knowing. That's what they call the esoteric. See, he no matter what he believed that. He not gonna let his beliefs, you know, damper the facts. He gonna do his research, and when he come to you with it, he gonna drop straight diamonds on you, baby.
Yay.
Historical.
Yeah, he is, huh? Prophet be up in here with me. Prophet be like fire, more fire. You know, Prophet be talking shit, but yeah, he be dropping a real deal.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna let you hear. You gonna see he been dropping.
Look at the Yoruba people, and we'll move on to speak on the folk religion found therein and the diverseness of religion found therein. Mention of their creation story, some of their deities. This case of the Yoruba is definitely a boundary dissolving religion, let's put it that way, in the sense that we're going to find analogies between them, monotheistic religions, polytheistic religions, primitive pagan religions, all in on one bag. So it's a very interesting choice when it comes to comparative religion. And as with all of these such topics, my disclaimer always is that I'm a reader. I did not grow up with the Yoruba. If I mispronounce something, forgive me.
That's my boy there, though.
So, the Yoruba, as we understand them, have historically lived in Nigeria, in the Yoruba land, also including Benin and Togo. They are one of the largest groups of peoples on the continent. However, you can find them well beyond just Yoruba land. Through different movements, migrations, and history, including the slave trade, of course, you can find Yoruba people all around the Mediterranean, all around the New World, as it was, right? The Americas, the United Kingdom, United States, Brazil, Cuba, Grenada. On the deeper history note, and there's two narratives that I'm going to be talking about here. There is the scholarly narrative, and then there is the, I guess, folk narrative. So we're talking the scholarly narrative here at first, and that is the 8th century BC. you see that the Yoruba are located just south of the Sahara. In the 11th century AD, the Yoruba come to populate and become substantial within Nigeria, modern day Nigeria. And it was here that they had a sophisticated settlements, high wall fortresses, advanced art. They've always been very, how do I put this? A lot of regalia, a lot of very significant wardrobes, very colorful. And with this time that I'm mentioning, this maybe 12th century, 14th century, it was the sort of golden age for them. And eventually this spells out into a empire, the Oyo, which is a very, I mean, this isn't a history class, but it's a very, it included many of the Yoruba, but not all the Yoruba.
We were everywhere. We was all over this. We was on every piece of land in this world. We was already here. Them damn, no white bread. They remixed everything.
There was a rebellion against it. I mean, there's a lot that goes into there. But traditionally speaking, the Yoruba people have had a kind of priestly monarchy. I think they call that theocracy. And of course, a council as well. And of course, as with many of these ancient peoples, and especially in Africa, right, we see that music is plays an imperative role in festival and religious ceremony in all manner of life. And we see this in the affluence of African Americans in creation of music, this long ancestral reverence within music, this propulsion towards. And so in each of these ceremonies that you'll see, 13 every year, that might have an equivalence with the moon. I haven't dig that deep, but each of them are going to include music, the drum in some form. And of course, when I see the drum, it always makes me think of the earliest days of shamanic religion, spirituality. Now, the more folk narrative when it comes to the history would say that the Yorubas are descendants of Ham, which was the third son of Noah, and that the lineage of Ham wedded with the ancestors of the Cushites, or Kush, and that their people inhabited Mecca and Medina over in Saudi Arabia, and that they were there for thousands of years until there was the rise of Islam. And with that, the control of their folk religion. So they were pushed out and they migrated into Africa, intermingled with the Egyptians, later on to intermingle in Sahel, as it was, south of Sahel, the Borno people. And then eventually making their way to Yoruba land, to this kind of promised land, Ife. And Ife would be likened to their holy place, as as Muslim does with Mecca, or Islam, I should say, as Islam does with Mecca, Yoruba folk religion does with Ife. And so this was the land of proliferation, the land of abundance, the the homeland as it was, the sacred place. And this was what sprouted many different kingdoms. However, I've been using this term Yoruba, and there have been some speculations as to what Yoruba means. But it is also said that there is no meaning to the word Yoruba in any known language, that the people don't know how they got their name.
Now, see, this made me think about something you were talking about, I believe, Red, about the name thing. See how he kind of throwing that in there? Where did we get our name from and all that?
Mm-hmm. Aruba and Europe definitely, Europa and Yoruba definitely the same. African
Yeah,
dude told me that.
yeah, I'm telling you, that's why I said this thing go deep, deep. People just don't know how deep this rabbit hole goes.
And so it's this kind of eerie subject,
I'm trying to get my
an unsettling mystery. At what point the name was picked up? Maybe in these mass migrations, right? Maybe long before then. Maybe in some long dead language. So they as a people have never been unacquainted with the rise of Abrahamic religions. They have been alongside all the rises, Christianity and Islam. And not to mention that they were in the area of Judaism when it was arising. And not to mention that throughout all this era, even in the time where they were in Yoruba land, the Ottoman Empire would be sending traders. The Portuguese and the Europeans would be sailing on over. The slave trade would come through. Christianity and Islam were never too foreign to them. And so there is the traditional faith, which is what I call the folk religion. And then there are many of the Yoruba people that also could be Christian, also could be Muslim. They don't, the same family can inhabit or exhibit many different religions, tribal or otherwise. So it's not, the people and the religion are different. I hope you can see how it's not too complicated, but it is more complicated than one might think, right? Like when I say, for instance, something like Norse mythology, you know, it's assumed that all the Norse people in that time believed in this, right? But when I say Yoruba, it's a people, but not all of them believe in the folk religion. There's plenty of Yoruba people that are converts to others. So let's start talking about the actual concepts here. And the first one I want to touch on is what we could perceive as the Yoruban God. We're going to have to break down our definition of God throughout this, but the name is Olodumare or Olodumare. And this is the supreme God, the owner of it all. There is a transference of the name to Oloran, and that literally means owner. This is the head of the pantheon, and the pantheon is said to contain 1,700 divinities. So it's a level of, there's so many divinities that it reminds me of Hinduism in that way. But this Olodumare is the Lord of heaven, the Almighty, the Supreme, the Sky God, the discerner of hearts, the one who sees everything. And by everything, it is both the external and the internal, right. What you think and what happens. Mm-hmm. So is this not already giving you vibes of, God with the big G? This Olaran, and I'm just interchanging the names here. This Olaran is active on all planes of existence. So on the mundane level and on the celestial level, and presumably the microbial quanta, so forth. All things. The king who cannot be found by searching. That kind of gives me a bit of a Wizard of Oz, behind the curtain type of vibe.
Man, he'll trip, baby.
Omnipotent. Forever. The one who created everything. The one who gave the seasons. The one who gave night and day. The one who gave destiny. There's a tale that men used to be immortal. They did not die. And that they would eventually suffer from this. And they begged.
Look, just look at it. Even in the Bible, you look at how they say Noah and all Methuselah, they lived all them hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years. I mean, come on. Like I say, it don't take a rocket science to figure this shit out.
God, Olaran. The old ones die. So man asked for death from God as an interesting twist, right? And so since you have this Olaran, this creator, this one that has been there since the beginning of time itself, this is an objective force. This is the thing that is behind all things that transpire, that the destinies of mankind are in his palm, as it said. And there's this interesting allegory here to Christianity and Islam, where there are what are the Arisa, or the Orisha, I think it's Arisa, which are these kind of divinities, the ones who act on behalf of Olaran, the ones that punish mankind when laws are broken, the ones who act on the Creator's behalf. And is this not the dynamic of God and angels? Except in this way, one might be inclined to call the Yoruba folk religion paganistic or polytheistic. But what's the difference here between the apparent monotheism of Christianity, where there is the one big boy creator that rules it all, that's been around, that's always there, the objective force, and then there are divinities that act on their behalf?
Let me tell you, that's what I like about him. He gonna have you laughing, baby. He's so lighthearted with it too. He keep it interesting,
Upon death, Olodumare would be the judger, the one who knows all, so thus the one that can see all, and thus the one that knows if there are rewards to be given in the end. So it's the end of the line of the bureaucratic structure of the universe, right? And all the ones along the way are these Orisas. That nothing can be done against his will, since everything is of his will. Anytime you start to deal in these supreme transcendent being categories, it's introduces all sorts of interesting paradox. Who created the creator and all that, right? So these differences between the divinities and the creator, right? And this is an interesting topic because you don't really hear about this too much within the folds of Abrahamic religion, but this is allegedly a fairly sophisticated debate within the Yoruba folk religion, is the differences between the Orisas and Oldmer or Oluran. So it's this question of pure abstract and this question of human qualities, human-ishness, where the divinities seem to resemble more of a human-ishness, where maybe a human being is acted as deified, where they're not so far removed. We saw this a lot in Celtic mythology, where the gods are not too far off from what humans are like. Where, of course, Olodumare, Oluran, is abstract, pure abstract, aside from other characteristics. You know, this complex spiritual being, which in all ways,
Okay,
right,
Tina.
like what I'm describing, again, it's like, what's the difference here between God and Oluran? And you know, I think that's an interesting question, because this introduces a chicken or the egg situation. Were the Yoruba people worshiping this prior to their affiliation with the Abrahamic monotheisms? Were the Abrahamic monotheisms in fact inspired, derived from the ancient Yoruban beliefs? Or did the Yoruban beliefs alter in time with influence from the forming Abrahamic monotheistic beliefs? So, to push forward here a bit, let's talk about the creation story. And we've got two levels here that we're going to touch on. We're going to touch on the abstract level first, and then we're going to kind of spell it out in its more literal story form. So in many creation stories, especially in, say, like the contrast of the creation story from the Gnostics with the creation story from the Bible of Christianity, the Gnostic creation story gives the background information, gives all of the information that wasn't said in the Bible,
Right.
that what was happening behind the scenes in the spiritual realm. And then,
see, Enoch is one of the Gnostics, where they all were what they call the Dead Sea Scrolls. You know, they didn't want to put that real shit in the Bible. See,
have the story that's given in Genesis, which is only what's happening on the surface. And so in these different you know, very, very detailed, very, where we have a lot of information on the spirituality, ideally we can get both stories, the background and the foreground of the creation story. And in the case of the Yoruba folk religion, we have it, or at least as much as I can provide within the time that I give myself to study. So, in the beginning, there is the realm of Oluran, which is a realm at the center of everything that is, was, and ever will be. And all that exists here is referred to as Ash, A-S-H-E. That this is the thing that came from the center, and that this is the thing that was before all things. Oluran or Olodumare, I really hope I'm, pronunciation, puts this ash, this creative force, into pots, into containers, and starts to conjure up a way to use these containers to maintain the totality of creation, as it's put. So this reference could be
you see how he intertwining that thing, bro? I see you ain't saying too much because you see he dropping that real shit.
No, I'm just listening. I'm listening to where you fucking up at. That's all.
Oh, you look okay. Oh,
That's
so you
not.
come back with that rebuttal, huh?
I just listen. I just listen to see where he going at, because I noticed that when he was like, well, I don't know if it's because they the origin of the influence or they got influenced by Abrahamic faiths. I see that right when he got to that part, he jumped off and went into something else.
Yeah, because he gonna end up putting it all together though toward the end. But see, he's told you that, but he already had laid the background that they predated the Abrahamic religion.
Mm-hmm. As
You know,
long as he said that, like if he would have
Yeah.
said something, I'm listening.
Yeah, he said they predated the Abrahamic religion. He said, but also while still going alongside it. But he gonna intertwine it. I'm gonna let y'all listen because I see you listen. I'm gonna let y'all take it in.
that the
Right.
I know
different
y'all know I'm gonna
facets
go
of
here and light my blunt.
existence are each stored in different pots, or that mayhaps this is a multiversal nod, you know, that each pot contains a different creation, you know. And it's interesting to note here, I want to say before I dive more into it later, that every male force also has a female force. Every male deity ascribed to something has a female deity ascribed to something as well. We saw this in the Sumerians and the Babylonians, where there were always pairs of deities. It wasn't just that Neptune alone ran the sea. There would always be a husband and wife that ran the sea or ran the sky or whatever. It was never just one. And in the same way, so each thing, each force contains both the masculine and the feminine, which is a subject that we've touched on before in the course. So in this beginning, right, even before the pots, before the containers, Ash has a thought. The creative force has a thought. Think of the artist getting an idea, an inspiration, that before there was anything, there was only the creative force. It was not contained in any way. However, this force began to think. And when it began to think, this is the creation of God, or Oldemir, or Oleron. So this is an interesting narrative in respect to how it's presented within Christianity. That first is the creative force and then God, where usually the story is first God, then creative force, right? Interesting twist there. And that when Oldemir, or Olodumare, thought, he thought of matter. The thought itself became matter. And the matter itself is what is referred to when we say the name Oleron. So allegedly, there is the abstract being of Olodumare, who is the thinker. And then the thought itself, or the creation of matter itself, the medium of the artist, is Oleron. So this is some interesting territory here. But matter, as it said, is a she. So the thought of Oldemir is a he, masculine. But once matter is created, the medium is a she. Oleron is a she. So already we're seeing this interplay, as I've mentioned, that the male force generates the female thing, and this female force creates a male thing. The back and forth. You know, that's a distinction from Christianity right there, right? I mean, so the act of thinking creates matter. And I've talked about this before in the course as well. The analogy I used was building a house. Well, first comes the idea, then comes the words, the commands, the gathering of materials, and then comes the building. So the thought leads to the building. And this force of the feminine creation, the Olaran, is called Nana Baruku, the grandmother of all divinities. Nana, Nan, which when I hear this, it makes me think of the Egyptian Nun, which is the primordial waters of which all things came from. And that might be just me making, you know, erroneous ties, but from this, Nana starts to think. Nana gives birth to Mawa and Lisa, or Lissa. And this is the cosmic egg, and the seed of which fertilizes the cosmic egg. So right away, we're getting some interesting stuff here. We're getting an Orphic egg reference, ancient, which we would find later in Orphism, which we would find later in Slavic paganism. So again, I have to ask, how old is this? Did they have this? Or did they get this? Which I realize is a tricky question. I'll have an answer for this later, by the way. So there's a little quote here. Before there was day, before there was night, and before there was a universe, all things lived in harmony in Olaran, which is, you know, the matter that was thought. The cosmic heavens, located in the realm of Ikod Oran, the giant egg that sat in the center of nothingness. So, in various ways, these various cosmogonies that involve an egg, creation of the universe is tied to our own creation in the stories that we tell, okay? So how are we created? We are created by a force, which could be likened to semen, that meets an egg, right? So in this way, you can see the analogies here. This giant egg is what births these new divinities, these new forces, Mawa and Lissa. And this is the creation of what is called the Uranmol. And the Uranmol is this collection of deities that sprawl forth from Nana and the egg. These thousands or thousands of divinities. And that the Uranmol, this new group of gods, these higher gods, these archetypal beings, want to expand the universe. They want to expand it. And so they go to the Creator and they tell him what they want to do. And he says, yes, if you find something to bind it, to give it a border, it can expand, something that can contain it, kind of like the pot reference before. And this is where we see the introduction of the rainbow serpent. Now, I'll talk about this more later.
Okay, now.
This right now.
Let's get
Rainbow serpent, or also what is referred to as Dan, D-A-N-H, coils around the egg. This is an Orphic egg thing. And
That's energy.
the universe,
I don't
is
like that as Dan
ordered.
though, but you
It
know
is
what I mean?
remained firm because of the snake that coils around it. And it is said that someday this rainbow serpent, which they call Oshumer, will become hungry and devour its own tail, Ouroboros. And when that happens, all that is, was, and will be will return to the center as quickly as it was created. So here in Yoruba folk religion, we have the expansion and contraction of the universe, which is modern physics alleyway. Big
Can you
time.
pause it?
And it's accurate. I mean, there are different theories, right? Like astrophysicists say, like the big crunch, the big freeze, right? But one of them is this expansion and contraction, which we've seen.
What'd you say now?
Could you take it back about 3.5 minutes?
About 3.5 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let me see. Can I find the transcript here? Oh, no, don't go there. Ah!
Do spiritual studies.
Oh, hell, I don't start this shit all the
44
way over now. Let me see.
on the surface. And so in these different, very, very
I was in the
detailed,
smokehouse.
very, where we
Let
have
me
a
take
lot
this
of
in here with me.
information on the spirituality, ideally we can get both stories, the background and the foreground of the creation story. And in the case of the Yoruba folk religion, we have it, or at least as much as I can provide within the time that I give myself to study. So, in the beginning, there is the realm of Olaram, which is a realm at the center of everything. Everything that is, was, and ever will be. And all that exists here is referred to as Ash.
Can you pause it?
Yeah.
That this is the
Okay.
Okay, so hold on a second. So I just wanted to make a note for real. That the way he explaining some shit. That I forgot he was talking about Yoruba because he sound like that's how you pronounce some Nordic stuff, right? And the dude that made the Lord of the Rings.
All that's symbolism.
Yeah, but listen, you I think you'll be interested in the Silmarillion, maybe just in the first part of it. But the dude that made Lord of the Rings made a book called Silmarillion, and I'll listen to audiobooks just like how you doing it,
right?
And so, when you hear them type of words, y'all will understand. You understand that it sounds like I hear a relationship, right? And so when he got to talking about the serpent, he said the serpent name was Dan or something Dan something, right? And so the Danube and the Dan people is like these the tribe of Dan or whatever. Those are the concepts that could be related to a serpentine people. So the fact that Yoruba called the serpent a Dan will make me think that the Dan people are the serpentine people, like you can call them snakes. So I thought that was really cool.
Look, I'm telling you, he gonna listen. But when he come, he gonna have his shit together. Believe that.
Listen. I'm already sold. Africa is where it's at, but I like to hear this evidence, right?
Yeah,
so that we can put it together.
Yeah, cause see, I don't just listen to anybody. The people that I listen to, cause I study. I study myself and do some research myself. But I'm gonna listen to the people that's gonna have the real deal. That's gonna bring you the real fight. They ain't gonna sugarcoat it. According to their beliefs, I'm gonna bring it to you from the people that they don't hold no bias, no matter how they believe. They're gonna bring you the facts, and they're gonna do the research and bring you what the truth is. Yeah, he gonna sum it up
from the center. and that this is the thing that was before all things. Oleron or Oldemir, I really hope I'm, gosh, pronunciation, puts this ash, this creative force, into pots, into containers, and starts to conjure up a way to use these containers to maintain the totality of creation, as it's put. So this reference could be saying that the different facets of existence are each stored in different pots, or that mayhaps this is a multiversal nod, you know, that each pot contains a different creation, you know. And it's interesting to note here, I want to say before I dive more into it later, that every male force also has a female force. Every male deity ascribed to something has a female deity ascribed to something as well. We saw this in the Sumerians and the Babylonians, where there were always pairs of deities. It wasn't just that Neptune alone ran the sea. There would always be a husband and wife that ran the sea, or ran the sky, or whatever. It was.
And this will see a lot of Christians get mad at you when you tell them this shit here. Now you know Jesus. I know he was like, I see him as like a prophet. You know, I don't. You know, because we all created in the Most High's image. See, and even in the Bible, he said that it's not written in your law that I said that you are gods. See, they tried to make, you know, they had to paint him white first of all, and try and make everybody bow down to him, when he was just a man like everybody else. That he knew these secrets that we talking about, and that's why they really crucified him. See, you got to put that shit together. That's what it was. He was trying to give people the real deal like we doing, and they couldn't have that shit. See, I see, and him and Mary Magdalene, they said he loved her more than he loved us, the rest. You know why? Because that was his wife.
Ever just
you don't believe
one.
that, do you?
And in the same way, so each thing, each force contains both the masculine and the feminine, which is a subject that we've touched on before in the course. So in this beginning, right, even before the pots, before the containers, ash has a thought. The creative force has a thought. Think of the artist getting an idea, an inspiration, that before there was anything, there was only the creative force. It was not contained in any way. However, this force began to think. And when it began to think, this is the creation of God, or Oldemir, or Oleron. So this is an interesting narrative in respect to how it's presented within Christianity. That first is the creative force and then God, where usually the story is first God, then creative force, right? Interesting twist there.
Well.
And that when Oldemir, or Olodemir, thought, he thought of matter. The thought itself became matter. And the matter itself is what is referred to when we say the name Oleron. So, allegedly, there is the abstract being of Olodemir, who is the thinker. And then the thought itself, or the creation of matter itself, the medium of the artist, is Oleron. So, this is some interesting territory
Damn show
here.
is interesting, man.
But matter, as it said, is a she. So the thought of Oldemare is a he, masculine. But once matter is created, the medium is a she. Olderun is a she. So already we're seeing this interplay, as I've mentioned, that the male force generates the female thing, and this female force creates a male thing. The back and forth. You know, that's a distinction from Christianity right there, right? I mean,
talk your shit.
So the act of thinking creates matter. And I've talked about this before in the course as well. The analogy I used was building a house. Well, first comes the idea, then comes the words, the commands, the gathering of materials, and then comes the building. So the thought leads to the building. And this force of the feminine creation, the Olaran, is called Nana Baruku, the grandmother of all divinities. Nana.
And you know, sometimes we call the Panana. Get it? The Panana. Buzz, look at here.
On, which when I hear this, it makes me think of the Egyptian Nun, which is the primordial waters of which all things came from. And that might be just me making, erroneous ties, but from this, Nana starts to think. Nana gives birth to Mawa and Lisa, or Lissa. And this is the cosmic egg, and the seed of which fertilizes the cosmic.
That's what I was going to say something about the cosmic egg. Okay, we women have eggs, right? No, we have eggs. That's what we're talking about now. And then the sperm fertilize the egg, right? Sharonda, you still here? You might have quiet in there, gal.
Cosmic egg. So right away we're getting some interesting stuff here. We're getting an Orphic egg reference. Mm-hmm. Ancient. Which we would find later in Orphism, which we would find later in Slavic paganism. So again, I have to ask, how old is this? Did they have this? Or did they get this? Which I realize is a tricky question. I'll have an answer for this later, by the way. So,
hey, Tina.
There's a little...
Tina, it's in there. But it's veiled, like I say, in symbols and allegories. It's veiled. People just literally look at it and take the Bible word for word, the exoteric, see, what Christianity wants you to know. This is what is the inside known as ESO, what I say the ESO, EXO EX, what they want y'all to know. I'm giving y'all what the deal is. What's really going on behind all those allegories in the parables, all that symbolism. You got to read between the lines.
Well, there's a little quote here.
I never could go, even as a child, I never could go for that immaculate conception shit.
For there was day, before there was night, and before there was a universe, all things lived in harmony in Olaran, which is, the matter that was thought. The cosmic heavens, located in the realm of Ikod Oran, the giant egg that sat in the center of nothingness. So, in various ways, these various cosmogonies that involve an egg, creation of the universe is tied to our own creation.
That's right.
In the stories that we tell, okay? So how are we created? We are created by a force, which could be likened to semen, that meets an egg.
Break it.
Right?
I can't make that shit up. Break it down.
So in this way, you can see the analogies here.
Break it down.
This giant egg is what births these new divinities, these new forces, Mawa and Lissa. And this is the creation of what is called the Uranmol. And the Uranmol is this collection of deities that sprawl forth from Nana in the egg. These thousands or thousands of divinities. And that the Uranmol, this new group of gods, these higher gods, these archetypal beings, want to expand the universe. They want to expand it. And so they go to the creator and they tell him what they want to do. And he says, yes, if you find something to bind it, to give it a border,
break it down,
it can expand, something that can contain it, kind of like the pot reference before. And this is where we see the introduction of the rainbow serpent. Now, I'll talk about this more later. I'm just going to get into this right now. The rainbow serpent, or also what is referred to as Dan, D-A-N-H.
Yes, he is funny. That's why I like him.
Boils around the egg. This is an Orphic egg thing.
That's what I'll be doing.
Yeah.
The universe is bordered. It is remained firm because of the snake that coils around it.
And what is the snake?
And it is said that someday
he talking about that anaconda y'all got.
This rainbow serpent, which they call Ashumer, will become hungry and devour its own tail, Ouroboros. And when that happens, all that is, was, and will be will return to the center as quickly as it was created. So here in the Yoruba folk religion, we have the expansion and contraction of the universe, which is modern physics alleyway, big time stuff. And it's accurate. I mean, there are different theories, right? Like astrophysicists say, like the big crunch, the big freeze, right? But one of them is this expansion and contraction, which we've seen in religions beyond just this one. I believe we saw it in Hinduism as well. Fascinating. How would they know, huh? How would they know? And this serpent, right? Eating its own tail. I mean, is this you know, the world serpent reference? You know, is this where the Norse got it from, right? You know, I mentioned in the snake mythology talk this kingdom of DAHLIN and their preoccupation with serpents. And, you know, they had this concept as well of this same serpent, this celestial serpent.
So this the part you was talking about, Squid?
Yeah, we passed it a little bit. The part where when he named the Ouroboros.
Yeah.
And he named it D-A-N-H or whatever. Yeah, that's like, damn.
Yeah, he. I told you he gonna give it to you now. I ain't gonna come to y'all half stepping.
Yeah,
rainbow serpent that has 3,500 coils above and 3,500 coils below. So the reference there is that we saw that with the Aboriginal Australians, and they had separated from Africa at least 80,000 years ago. So the question I had earlier of which came first, did the Yoruba people believe this, or did they get it from somewhere else? Well, this implication of this stretching back, this idea stretching back older than 80,000 years or even 120,000 years, says that no, this stuff has been around, that it's been around longer than human history, as we call it.
Tell the truth, boy, tell the truth.
And this implication, this rainbow serpent, isn't just found in the long isolated people of Australia. This is also found by practically the same name, which we'll go over later, in Maya, in the Mayan culture. How?
That's what I'm talking about.
Anyhow, this group of gods, this Arunmul, they created the Orishas, of which I mentioned earlier. So a set of gods creates a further divinity. A greater divinity leads to a lesser, minor divinity. So there are the greater Orishas, and then there are the minor Orishas, which I am by no means going to pronounce them all or to list them all. I could dedicate a whole session to the deities alone. We're talking about very few deities in this session. By comparison. And so these Orishas are messengers. They are a conduit between divinity and mankind. Say 1,001 great Orishas. And that the Orishas, these lesser Orishas, would be the first humans. Yes.
Okay, that's what the Greeks say.
Orishas create.
The Greeks say the Nubians were the first man.
Damn right. And who are the Nubians?
You already.
Okay, the melanated, baby.
Right.
The spirit realm, which is confusing because where was all the rest of that transpiring? Or maybe they make it accessible. I'm not sure. But it's said that if people lead good lives,
that's what I say. After this third eye open, it's like now I can look back and I can just see everything that they was putting in front of our face all our life.
Right.
We really did. Well, we knew us. We knew us chosen. Was I say many called, we were chosen.
But
see, everybody not gonna wake up like we are. See what I'm saying?
And it's helpful to listen because I use the language of I say the words or the language like it's like numbers. Like sometimes we can go over shit. We could know things, right?
Right.
But when we hear it proper or we hear it where it's put together better, that shit really click with us, right?
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? I'm pretty sure most people probably heard about the antiquity of Yoruba, but when you hear somebody break it down compared to what everybody else got going on, that's helpful. That's helpful right there.
That's right. See, I know these things, but it's like I really don't get tongue tied, kind of stuff.
I know how you feel.
Yeah, so I can bring it to you, somebody that can bring it out more clearly and and precise than I can,
Right, but you done heard it already. You know it already.
And not only that, man, no matter how many times you listen to something, you're gonna hear something that you missed that last time.
Hell yeah. And you know what? No matter how much you study something, you will fuck around and forget something.
Yeah, every time.
I won't curse nobody, but I'm just saying. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like you might miss something or something could throw off the subconscious where it don't connect, right. Man. So I like that he used words like 80,000 years.
Because listen, he trying to let a motherfucker know that these people was here way before y'all motherfuckers were here, way before Christianity was here. That's what he's telling everybody.
Oh, for sure. I mean, 80,000. Listen, there's concepts in Africa go back 100,000 years, and ain't nobody else on the earth beat that shit.
Right.
On numbers, by numbers, right? That's what they say. So.
Well, it's like everybody got their beliefs, about. But see, I know for a fact that we were everywhere. Us, the melanated people, we was on every piece of land on this world,
right,
on this earth, because before the Ice Age, everything, all the land was connected.
And listen, even better than that, Queen. They was the gods. So whatever man came afterwards was creations of the gods. It's like it say in the scriptures how they created man. But who they created was Esau and them. He created all them extra joints.
And then they lived all these years and hundreds of years and thousands of years and stuff. And then,
right,
then he talked about
running this shit.
They was talking about the giants. Remember, they talked about the giants in the book of Enoch, and then they talked about it in Moses when he sent them over the spies over to the other land of milk and honey. And they said there was giants and stuff over there.
Right, and then the book of Emerald Tablets, it tell you that the men were giants in the beginning.
Right.
It tell you we was giants. We weren't as small as y'all men of today. Type shit. That's what it say.
And not only that, they it made me think about Jack and the Beanstalk. See what I'm talking about? How they brought, how they don't had all this in our life, right in our face. Even in the cartoons, they had everything right in front of our face all our life.
Because they don't want to say, they trying to run them plays to get that same energy as is telling you what it is. They trying to tell you what it's like so they can act like they know what it is.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So listen, the mere fact that he called this rainbow serpent, or that he stated how they call this rainbow serpent Dan, it fit right along with the subterranean peoples.
Right. Hold on just
some old serpent people type shit.
Hold on just a second, y'all.
The Danites.
All right.
Can
I'll be right back, y'all.
the
Can y'all hear it?
realm.
Yeah.
If they have a strong and good spirit, their spirit will improve the realm by their being in it. So it's like gathering all of the right people to make a good ambience, which is an interesting note too, right? Like if you're going to have a heaven full of stuffy, dogmatic people, that room is not going to feel so good. That place isn't going to feel so good. But if you're only attracting in people that are warm-hearted, kind, and allowing, and you know, wholesome,
you tripping,
genuine,
Tina?
you know, that's going to improve the whole place.
I be telling you real like it's real, boo. I be keeping it real.
And so this final act of the Orishas or the Orisas is by delegating or bolstering up or providing for leaders on the world, which would be either elders or spiritual kind of gurus or monarchs or whatever, you know, playing their hand to provide specific humans, prophets with access to divinity, of which benefits all, literally all, not just humans, benefits all existence.
Right.
So that is the abstract form, you know, like I've given kind of like some cliff notes in the background of creation. So let's talk about like the actual story or the surface level story.
He's gonna get into it now.
So the surface level story is, in the beginning, there was only the sky and the waters, that which is above and that which is below. We're getting Hermeticism vibes
As above,
here.
so below.
And this was all ruled by the mighty Orisha.
He said Hermeticism, prophet. We talking about that herb now.
Hey, but you know what? The Greeks and the Romans, guess who they went to learn?
I already know. They got everything from us.
Right. They own information tell it on their damn stuff. And when you line up the shit they ain't telling, that shit say the same thing they said back then when they said they went to Africa to learn.
Look, right? They didn't listen. They why you think they didn't even know what fire was until they ran into us. They were eating raw meat and shit in them damn caves. Why you think they like raw steak, raw meat now?
Well, I think those are the wild ones. I think that there were some that was kept in the house or kept in the city that was clean, and it became a different faction of those that was close to the source and those that was out there in the wild.
Well, you know, see, I'm gonna take it back to the Bible again now. Everything in that Bible is, I'm telling to you now, but if people just could really open up their minds and see, you know, elevate like we have, they can see through this shit. Just like which one of them was it in the Bible? They say he was walking on all fours like a dog. It was one of them. I can't remember what book it is. I'm gonna have to look at it.
It was the one of the kings of what's some people that used to take them away, carrying them off to Babylon and shit. Or
I'm gonna have to
like
look it up.
Nebuchadnezzar, one of them cats.
That's what I was gonna say. Nebuchadnezzar.
Mm-hmm.
Now look, they say it's all in the Bible, but see, they people they can't dissect it. See, they can't decode it like we doing it.
You know what I think? I think that the reason why people got a problem with it is because they listening to the Masonics tell it. If they read it by themselves, then they'll be better off, because that's how I read it by myself. I ain't listened to the narrative as by the pastor. That pastor narrative be fucking people flow up for real. You got it.
They had the okay, that tell you right there that they when they was in them caves, they was walking on all fours, right? That's why they love. See, I love dogs too, but that's why they love dogs so much. Them they used to. Why you think they smell like a dog when they sweat? Because they was in the breeding with them and shit.
So check this out. You know what happened to a pig when you let it loose? It become a hog, right?
Yeah, that wild hog. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So what happened? Yo lost his mind. Yo got struck with something, and he be turned into a pharaoh. He came pharaoh again, right?
Right.
So if these people kept and they're taught and civilized, so to speak, that's one brand. But once they get out them city walls and start fucking around, that's a whole nother brand, right? Yeah,
I got what you're saying.
Like, because they created. Remember, they created to begin with. So, what would you create something for? To be like a slave or a servant or just you know what I mean, a companion or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So their wildly versions collaborated with each other or something to that effect.
Yeah, once I guess when they cast them out,
the outcasts became soldiers or something for somebody else.
Basically, and that all bring you back to all that incest shit. You don't find black people doing, not too many now. You might find one, but you ain't gonna find them like them damn white people.
Well, those are pharaoh characteristics.
That incest, won't sleep with your children. Man, come on now, that's just sick.
Mm-hmm. So of God. So see right away, they're already there in this story. And that Oleran ruled the sky above, and Olakan ruled the waters below. And right away, I want to point out, we see this all across ancient mythologies. We saw this in Sumeria with Ea and Enki. And one day, Obatala, which is another deity, decided to create dry land. That's an interesting contrast, because in the creation story of the Aboriginals, the first thing there ever was dry land. He asked for permission from Oleran and for advice from another deity as to how to create this, or how to create the upcoming world. And the quote is, "You will need a long gold chain, a snake shell filled with sand, a white hen, a black cat, and a palm nut." There's a lot to dive into here. It might seem very mundane on the surface. And so Obatala hung from the gold chain and began to climb down from the sky.
Well.
A long journey down this chain. So, just for your own mind,
journey down this chain.
What is the gold chain representing? Huh?
Come on with it.
Until he finally reaches the bottom.
The bottom of what?
And once he reaches the bottom of the chain, or presumably this dry land,
the dry land,
he poured sand from the shell into the mist below.
Lord have mercy.
So you can think of this like nebulousness, and that the sand is poured into it.
That's deep, ain't it?
And he also releases the white hen, and the hen begins pecking at the sands
Oh Lord, have mercy.
and scattering it
Yeah,
in all directions.
this is a good one here.
And this creates valleys and mountains.
This is my first time. I don't listen to a lot of his sessions, but this is my first time. A lot of them, when I play, I be listening to it for the first time too. When I broadcast it, and this is my first time listening to this one. Now this one here is deep. He believe in the way he's saying, pronouncing them words. He's trying to let you know what's going on.
So we're getting shamanic vibes here in regards to storytelling.
This thing tripping. I'm cracking my side.
And then, lastly, is to plant the palm nut.
Oh Lord,
and that from this palm nut blooms a palm forest. And this land is Afi, the land of which would become Yoruba land, or the sacred holy land. And that here we settled down the black cat.
See, that's the sacred chakra. You know what the sacred chakra is, right?
The sacral?
Yeah, you know what that is, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's what he's talking about.
Live in this new land.
Punana.
Which I want to note just the interesting contrast between the white hen and the black cat. Maybe some kind of yin-yang reference there. But eventually, after this creation, Obatala gets bored. And he begins shaping figures with clay. So here we see it again. Seen it all around the world. We see it in Christianity. We see it in Sumeria. We see it with some native beliefs of the Americas. What's he shaping out of clay, I wonder? And as he's working on this, he's drinking palm wine. And the first figures that he creates are deformed. And from this, he swears that he'll never drink again. And so he tries to form new figures. And these new figures were man, humankind. And that immediately, humankind started to build houses, started to build things. And he was pleased. And so in this story, you see both a creation story for humankind, but also for people who are born with deformities. And you don't see that in religion, as far as I've seen. And with this, all the Orishas were very pleased by all of this creation, except for Olokan. And this was, again, the master of the sea, the god of the sea. He was never told about creation. He was never consulted about this. He was never asked his opinion. Okay. So, in anger, he causes the great flood and nearly wipes out all of the creations. So here we have it, a flood myth. And mind you, we see this battle between the sky god and the pissed off, non-consulted water deity with the Polynesians, the original folk religion of what would become the various religions of the Polynesians. There's a battle between the land and the sea, or the sky and the sea. And there's also analogies here to the Aboriginal Australian beliefs as well. So once the waters had shown the flood, once this power had been shown, people took the ocean, took the power of the sea very seriously. And so all of this, I wanna go back a bit. All of this that I've told you, all of everything, came from ash, came from life force, came from the creative potential, came from whatever we want to call it. We want to call it spirit? Okay. You want to call it chi? Okay. You know, you want to call it chakra? Okay. You know, energy. You want to call it energy? Okay. Or ash. Call it ash. That all of it comes from this prima materia, ether, whatever. The word, that all natural things, all powers, all forces come from this. So let's move on and let's talk about the afterlife. So we have a carryover from ancient beliefs in this case when it comes to the Yoruba, which is if you live a good life, you will reincarnate. And that this is not negative. Reincarnation is something to look forward to. As I've said several times when talking about these ancient beliefs that bleed all the way into the modern, the idea of reincarnation being bitter is only a matter of Hinduism and Buddhism. That this is something to escape.
Wow.
Also, you know, we saw it with the Greek.
Deep, ain't it?
Well, he's making a good point.
I'm glad you're enjoying this.
Salutes.
In certain ways too. But in this way, when talking of the Yoruban folk religion afterlife, if you live a good life, you'll reincarnate. And if you are deceitful, if you are a bad, you know, if you are not a good person, then you don't get reborn. Presumably, you vanish.
Wow.
There you go.
See what I'm talking about? That's right there.
Yeah, that's powerful, Ben, because I'm tired of hearing people talking about energy don't die.
Well, yeah, that's deep there. That's real deep there.
Yeah.
Because when we think, the way we think, everybody say when you come back, when you be reincarnated, when you live many lifetimes, that means that you haven't learned your lesson in the previous lifetime. So you got to come back and finish that lesson. So the way he explained it is very different now. Very, very different. I'm gonna have to listen to this again.
Only those who are virtuous get the privilege of reincarnation. That is quite the twist, right?
Right. So, only if you worthy of it.
So now that made me feel a whole lot better there. Because I've always been told I was an old soul that I don't live many lifetimes. So therefore I must have been doing good in the previous lifetimes for me to keep coming back.
Well, you know what? That's a good
side to them saying that you keep coming back because you've been doing that. You had karma to read to so you know to do so. Wow, I'm gonna have to listen to this again. But go ahead, say what you're gonna say.
No, I mean that makes sense. You do good, it's going to determine what life you got.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And if you don't do good, you might not come back.
There you go. See that give you that's a whole different twist on what everybody been teaching. See.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I said it's my first time listening to this one, and this one is very good. No, it's not the end. We just having a little discussion on the panel here. I'm talking to Tita. Yeah, cause that's interesting. I'm gonna have to come back and listen to this again when we're not in this discussion, and get a little deeper meaning to that thing, because I like the way that sound. That sound real good to me.
And that there is this piece which we saw with some Native Americans that we see across the world, kind of speckled here and there. That's
why I say, even like I say, I go back to the Bible again, because if we symbols and allegories, it says that people suffer for lack of knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
To show thyself approved. See what I'm saying? You got to study this thing for yourself. See, and get a better understanding for yourself. Prophet being there talking shit now.
Familial reincarnation, or what is referred to as a tunwa, which I believe I brought this up in the afterlife talk I gave a long time ago. And this is the idea of that the family reincarnates into itself. There are names within Yoruba language that literally mean mother returns, father returns, Yetunde, Baba Tunde. the family reincarnates into itself. Oh, this is grandma. And that gender is not followed when it comes to reincarnation. It can switch, which is different than other traditional beliefs of reincarnation. Maybe I brought this up in the spiritualism talk, the very first one. Yeah, anyhow.
Yeah, that you could come
And that
back.
each
Now I knew that. Yeah, I had heard that say you could, when you reincarnate, you might not. You might, in your previous lifetime you might have been a man, you know, and in this lifetime you're a woman, you know, stuff like that. I heard that before. So that's what he's talking about there. You don't come back as the same gender.
You bring the wisdoms from all of your former incarnations, and that the child contains all these wisdoms. And so presumably the child is babbling and speechless because the child is still very aware of all of these former incarnations.
Wow.
That's
Wow.
Real
Yeah,
deep.
that's heavy.
the act of acquiring language and sentience as a growing human is to kind of forget.
I did know that, you know, because if you notice, because babies, because a lot of people don't believe in spirits and stuff, but I believe in spirits, stuff like that. If you notice, when a baby, you know, a baby is an infant, they always looking in the corners and smiling and stuff, looking up at the ceiling and smiling and going on. That's because they see spirits and stuff.
Right.
Yeah. See, that's what I see. We already born with our eyes open. They put us back to sleep when they started pushing that education shit down our throat. When we went to school.
Things, but each time you come with the wisdom of your ancestry, your ancestral soul, the accumulation of the knowledge of many lifetimes. So in this way, here is our stark contrast. There is no heaven or hell in this dynamic. There is no punishing, really. I mean, I did note a punishing of non-existence, sure, but that's not vindictive, and it's not a matter of belief.
That's real deep. Yeah.
This is a lot softer than that in a very real way. There also is this triple form of the soul as well. So this brings another nuance to the conversation. In the Yoruban culture, the spirit has the force or the breath or the spirit, the shadow, and then this kind of ether, this Ami, Ajoji, and Ori, which is found well beyond just the Yoruba. I mean, when we were talking about Finnish paganism, it was 3 as well. I'm not going to remember all the names right now, but the Zulu, right, also have the triad of the soul, the guardian spirit, the breath, and the shadow. And that this is a nod to the Trinity, the trifecta, or how 3s are always within every spiritual tradition ever, seemingly. We saw this obsession with 3s in the Celtic myth. And this also is a nod to their intermingling or their mutual history with the Egyptians, where the Egyptians had Ba, Ka, and Ak, these 3 forces of the soul, the life force, the spirit force, and the other, the unity of the 2.
I love it.
So let's back it up a little bit, and let's talk about the deities.
He's from out there in Seattle, Washington. I think that's what he told me. Yeah, I think that's what he told me he live it, because he's a professor. He teaches professor at some university out there. He does. That's what he does. He does lectures. That's what he do. Like I say, I communicate with him and stuff. But yeah, he's out there in Seattle, Washington. Now this man here is whew, I just fell in love with the man mind. I'm telling you, that man is I tell you.
So I want to mention again that there are so many, and I can't get. I did that lecture on Ether the other night, Prophet. That these Orishas are a intermediary between the divinity, the supreme creator, and existence, between the sky god and all else, and that this can be of benefit to you, that they can work with you in your favor or against you, and that there are also spirits within land, within rivers, mountains, trees, and environments. And that these Orishas that live in these places, both divine and worldly, are very human-like, as I mentioned. They marry, they make love, they enjoy music, they party. And so it's an interesting reflection, perhaps a mirroring of mankind in the Orishas.
Well, if you go to my page, you go email me the name of that book that you were talking about earlier. Shoot me an email and I'll check that book out that you were telling me about.
It's in the I got a description to the audiobook in in the description of my video.
Okay, I'll check it out.
It's at the very bottom.
All right.
These minor spirits in these lesser divinities, which kind of is an analogy for mankind by our own conception, right? Lesser divinity. But then there are also these negative forces of the Orisha, the Ajogun. And these negative forces can cause mistakes, accidents, illnesses, disease. That this is something to be avoided, likened to demons. However, this only happens if one does not live in the proper way or does not pay proper respects to the spirits. So there aren't demons in the sense that they are seeking to do negative for negative's sake and maliciously. They are an act of almost judicial quality. Interesting contrast there. Maybe an inspiration that was corrupted by Abrahamic religions. Just saying. So I want to get back to the thing that I mentioned before with the rainbow serpent, this Dahn, D-A-H-N, the African rainbow serpent, which this isn't the Yoruban name. I don't know if this is correct, but I think this is the Dahomey name, which they weren't too far away from each other.
When he said that, so you ever heard of that movie or saw that movie, The Serpent in the Rainbow?
Man, I've seen it, but I don't remember it. I remember it, but I remember seeing it because of the name, but I ain't get it because I was young. It was like in the 80s.
Yeah, it's an old movie. I was young when I saw it too. I was a shit. I was born. I'm a 70s baby. I was born in 76. But if I see, that's what I say. Every time it always makes me click back on things that I've seen growing up. It always make me. I always see a symbolism in it now. When he's saying about the serpent in the rainbow, right? And then that made me think about that movie, and they were talking. It was about voodoo in Haiti. That's right. What it was about. It was about voodoo in Haiti, and it was called The Serpent in the Rainbow. So that kind of made me that made something click in my mind. See,
that's wild because that that's that rainbow serpent concept is definitely speaking on the energy of the earth and all that color spectrum type stuff.
Boom, you got it, boom.
Sun is depicted with its tail in its mouth.
You got it.
Representing Ouroboros, representing timelessness, representing the border of the universe, representing unity.
And voodoo is a religion. They try to demonize that too, but voodoo is religion.
Presenting
I got
everything.
I got the symbols from voodoo, man. They're used on crests from Europe, and they be telling shit that I know that they didn't get from nobody.
Right.
Ancient information on them voodoo symbols. Look up voodoo. If you could Google voodoo symbols and just have a ball and just look at them.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, because I can see that. That's why I said once that third eye open, you don't never see shit the same again. You can just see through all the bullshit that they've been spoon feeding us all our life. You can just see through it now. And you can start putting together all this stuff, If you have, if you like I said, if your third eye strong, you can start putting all this stuff together. Just like that's why I say everybody platform is a little different, but we all have our own way of putting out the information to the collective, to try to get to wake them up. See, let's see. Like I say, I'm being able. That's why I like to see when he bring these things up, and like I said, he gonna go deep. You can see that. It just made me think of certain things, like I say, that I have already seen, that we've seen growing up, that we really didn't pay attention to, until later on, until our eyes opened up to these things.
Right. And so when they made a movie Rainbow and the Serpent, I remember watching for the movie. I ain't never seen no rainbow or no serpent, right?
Right.
And that's what I remember of the movie, right? I do remember it was about voodoo and shit. And but I remember when I was young, I was like, well, what is going on here? I ain't get it. Like, I was the type of kid where the title had to make sense to the movie.
Right.
Otherwise, I didn't get it. I was like, well, what the fuck? I'll look at what the fuck does that got to do with the title? I didn't.
It had me.
know?
See, it kind of scared me, But then, as I became an adult and I watched it again, and I'm like, man, this shit here deep. You know what I'm saying? It's real deep. You need to watch it again.
And rainbow is like a colorful thing, and that shit wasn't colorful.
That shit was dark as hell, wasn't it?
It was dark. Yeah, it was.
Shout out to you, love. Just peace and love, baby. Yeah, that's ain't deep. That's what I say. Now you got to go back. Now he giving you clues. Now you got to go back and look at and just watch all these certain things and start piecing it together. That's all we got to do.
Ism. And while there are many lesser deities that belong to different parents, the only deities that are associated with this Don, the homie god snake, is Mau and Lisa. Those original deities in the early cosmogony.
Mona Lisa.
And the rainbow serpent moves around. When Dawn moves around, its excrement is what created mountains. So that's kind of funny, right? The mountains are dung heaps left by the serpent.
That's terrible.
That's wild, ain't it?
It binds all things together. So all of existence is kept together by the snake. And so this is a very mixed bag when it comes to how to perceive this entity. It's almost a reluctant entity in the sense that there is no love for this being. There is a power, but there's a malalignment considered here too. That dawn manifests itself as a serpent or as a rainbow, or manifests itself in the umbilical cord, which I referenced in the snake talk too, or it's your veins, or it's how the rivers move, or it's how gas moves out of mountains, or it's how plant roots look. The shape of the snake and these ancient mythological associations with the snake can also be tied to things like sun rays. That this is, when looking at the caduceus and the coiling snake of the kundalini and its likeness to the structure of DNA. The snake keeps things together. This goes deep, man. This is well beyond some flippant myth.
You know what? I'm gonna go ahead and extend past his limitations, because he might, he might be involved and have a little bias going on. So it's not about the snake, it's about the energy. And so let's say we change up the word snake and we say wave. Right. And so the wave, which is alive, it got all this energy in its trailings and it create and add to things.
Right.
The form of the serpent or Ouroboros came because of that.
Right.
Right. So the Ouroboros is a mud fossil now, but that energy still exists. So when we tap into whatever that energy is, a language has been sustained about the serpent concept, but we could just use words that are more precise and explain the same thing without being serpentine.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So I'm just saying.
He did a spiritual study session about snakes.
Yeah, he sound like he likes snakes, and I'm just saying there ain't no snakes nowadays. Now,
but that's what I'm saying. But but what he's trying to say is how, like I'm saying, how they try to demonize the snakes. You know what I'm saying?
oh, they ain't tried. They took
They
that shit
did.
all the way.
Yeah,
Yeah, that shit is
but
Satan representation and shit.
right. But see,
Right.
the way he speaks,
Okay.
he's trying to let you know that the way that they really tried, put it down there like he just was lower than the dust. Is not the truth. See what I'm saying?
Well, he is. I mean, listen. All right, this is what I'm saying.
Go ahead. I'm listening.
Let's say that the people who is into that, studying that energy and wave, they gonna take it a certain way, right? And so let's say it's like using light bulbs. Let's say the opposition use light bulbs different, but we get a whole of them. We gonna use them differently. So it's like the way the world been going right now. The serpentine has been glorified,
right?
But see, it's just like saying we could love the sun and the moon and stars, but we ain't supposed to pray to it as it's the creator itself.
Right.
So you just don't want to put too much into that basket because you want to, you know what I'm saying? That's all I'm saying. It's just cautionary. He kind of like saying, the snake keep it together. No, the energy keep it together. The snake don't exist no more. The snake is a mud fossil.
But you know what? Really, what he tried to say is the snake is the spinal cord.
Well, I'm thinking in the earth perspective. So
yeah, see, he's thinking in the spirit. He's taking a spiritual perspective. See, because that's all the tree of life is. The tree of life ain't nothing but the body, your body, the spinal cord.
Yeah, but you know what? That doubles also is layered for either the snake or the tree or the earth. The earth, for real. The earth is the tree of life, right? And so the earth is filled with life, and it's a tree shape. So that's why you have the concept of the snake. When you see the medieval representation of the tree of life, it got one snake coiled along it, right? And that's going to double for the earth itself, speaking on the energy,
right?
And for, like you said, the spinal cord, which also speaks to the energy,
right?
You know what I'm saying? And so it's a matter of an ancient and very basic and simple explanation. But if shit gets too wild, then people is going to be putting on snake costumes. They're going to be buying pythons left and right, thinking that they you know what I'm saying? It depends on where they mind at about it.
You know what I want you to do? I just did a 2-part because I know you know how y'all is about the secret societies. I kind of went off in there a little bit, on in that one, because I'm tell you that it's called the initiation of the flame. I just did 2 videos. I want you to check them out. They on in my videos,
Okay.
And tell me what you think. I want your intake. I want your input.
Recently, because I've been listening, but I've been in and out.
Yesterday and day before yesterday. It's the initiation of the flame. I did it in 2 parts.
Yeah.
I want you to go back and listen to that. And it really is. I ain't gonna tell you what it's about. I want you to listen to it, and then I want you to get with me and tell me.
I think I was listening to some of it. I was there. I think I was there.
I don't think you didn't say nothing. I know Prophet was in there with me.
Oh, okay. Well, if I ain't say nothing, then I wasn't there.
Yeah, you didn't say nothing, so you were in there. But I want you to go back and watch. Then it's 2 parts. Go over to my channel and check it. And it's like I say, I ain't gonna tell you what it's about. Well, it's about the secrets. It's somewhat about the secrets of the Masons and stuff. I'll tell you about that. But I think you'll find it rather interesting.
Yeah, I would rather you tell me a little bit.
No. Okay. I'm tell you, I want you to listen to it.
Okay.
I want your perspective on it.
All right, I'll comment on it.
Can you handle that?
Yeah, I can.
Okay, we're gonna go on and finish this now.
This curiosity of humans and mammals being born with a cord attached to them. This is a nod to the snake, to the rainbow serpent. That this deity transports lightning to the earth.
All you need now is to say that
Yeah.
this shit is really what Satan is, and we shouldn't be so mad at him. That's where the shit going. Like I can hear it in his heart. See, so why hurt Satan and Lucifer? They all right. You know, I hear it coming.
But look, but you but listen, but Satan was what? But if Lucifer was what that mean? The light bearer, right?
All necessary evils. You know, when, remember what he said earlier about how God wills everything, like everything can't nothing go against God because God is willing it or something. It was in the beginning of this one, right? And so and that's probably a good generalization way to put it, right? It's when people add they energy to the shit and it's unbalanced. That's when you get a shit show,
right?
And that's what I'll be critiquing, right? I'm not critiquing what he's saying except for we're kind of like, let's say like this, and I'm not speaking on him, but if someone was capricious to everything that they already heard about serpents, snakes, and dragons,
right,
they would already be kind of eyeing a path, as opposed to someone who isn't. So I just hear a little bit of that. That's all. Nothing.
You see a little bit of bias in it. That's what it is.
I mean, look, everyone got it.
Everyone's gonna have bias to the, what
everyone got it. I'm gonna be sucking my teeth every time he say the serpent is the reason why this and that. Maybe.
Listen. I hear you. I hear you.
Yeah. The umbilical cord is a serpent. Come on, man. Like, what else you want? What else you want?
There's people I believe where the snake was tied to lightning.
Hey, I enjoy it.
That's the shape of lightning.
That's what I like. I like to have somebody up here on the panel. Where we can discuss things. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. You mad fun, yeah.
Somebody to talk to about it. I feel it's better than me just being here and then somebody being in the chat. So,
all right, I'm gonna hit the link. I'm gonna hit the link then, yo.
Every time, okay, but
I bet. I get it. Yep.
The snake.
Mm-hmm.
You're more than welcome here.
That the rumbling
I
sound
appreciate it.
in the clouds is that of the snake rumbling around.
See, I'm like OG Philly. We agree to disagree. Everybody have their opinions. But we all learn from each other. So that's what we're here for, to learn.
Right, it's all love.
Each one teach one. Don't nobody do it all. We here that's what we do. We evolve. We learn.
Hey, Queen Goddess, we out here sharpening swords.
Yeah. That's right. We like, hey, I can admit when I'm wrong. You can admit when you're wrong. And that's what I like about OG. He ain't gonna let everybody have their different opinions, but he ain't gonna let nobody disrespect nobody. You know what I'm saying? That's what I said. Everybody had their opinions. Ain't nobody gonna come up with disrespecting nobody because you will get blocked.
Yeah.
Like I say, we here to agree. We agree to disagree. That's what it is. We ain't gonna always agree on everything. Nobody gonna agree on everything.
Hey,
but
listen,
your family.
And you know what? It's like this. I've been in the YouTube streets for a little while when it comes to these panels, and I'm all about decorum and things like that. So I try my best not to participate like some of these novices where they just cut people off and argue. Right. Like, because what it really is, without the emotion in it, we put our minds together.
Exactly.
Right? So like it's always teamwork, for real. Like it's always a team effort. You know what I'm saying? Prophet Levi, me, the chat. Like, you know what I'm saying? We all here and we all hearing the same thing. And you know what I'm saying? Our presence is power.
Right. It's right. Like you said, that energy. You can tell when that bad energy come into that chat. It seems like when people with that bad energy come in, it seems like everything just goes south. You know what I'm saying? Because they come in to disrupt.
I know. I deal with that shit. Listen, I deal. Listen, I deal. It's such a diplomatic thing. I take my views in consideration, and I know y'all see me up there. I'm like, oh my God, look, Jesus. Like, why are these the type of people? Why are these the type of people, man? I gotta deal with. I
ain't got as big as y'all yet. See, I'm growing. I'm gaining a little footing in there. But man, I guess once I explode, I'm gonna have to deal with that shit like y'all deal.
Yep, you're gonna have to deal with motherfucker hitting the link, talking shit. They like, man, you don't shut the fuck up.
For real.
So-
If y'all can see my eyes roll, boy,
This,
y'all would already know.
I
Giving
know.
of
I
things
be
through
hearing
the
you
conduit of the
in
snake
the
or through the
background.
divinities to
I be
people,
laughing my head
you
off.
know, this giftedness, you know. If you were to be well spirited, it could come from the act of the snake or what is given through the snake via the umbilical cord upon birth, and that those who are well spirited would be well charged with destiny, that they could become leaders of a community, that they could have significant changes to give into the world through the conduit of the snake.
But you know what my symbolism is of the snake? My symbolism of the snake is the penis.
Mhm.
That's what I think the symbolism is. That they veil, you know what I'm saying? Where he should say the snake tempted Eve in the garden. Okay. Okay, so now
It makes sense. Listen,
okay. Yes, you know what I'm saying?
the fun thing about scriptures and lyrics like that is that they could be hella layers to it, right? And you can look at it. You can look at it that way. Somebody can say it's the pineal gland, which is something like a penile situation. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
And then
it's all in the words. See,
you know, and then earlier today, I found something that I ain't never see, and it was this Buddha statue, and you know, it showed a voluptuous big old breast,
right.
and at the lap there was a snake that was coiled around its shoulder, and the head came up in the lap just like the Baphomet.
Boom. There
you
is.
got it. Yep.
There you go. There it is.
Dude, I mean, this is deep. The other name other than Don, which is specifically the Yoruban name.
Nothing is a coincidence. It just so happen you happen to see that statue today, and then we're talking about this tonight. Everything has a reason, love.
Facts.
Everything.
Also, the Mayan name. So the Yoruban name is Asumer or Ashumer, and then you have the same in Latin America with the Mayan people with Achumer or Axumer or Ashumer.
What that sound like?
Right? And there are many.
What that sound like?
Achumer?
Asumer.
Asumer. I don't know what it sounds like to you. Break it down.
A Sumerian.
A Sumerian? Oh, you know what? You know what? You put that together real quick, bro.
Yeah, never mind me. These are ad libs. I'm just.
You already said that you know that you studied that thing, so I got you, brother. You know, cause see, I don't catch everything. You know what I'm saying? Two heads are better than one. That's what they always said to me.
Hey.
Similarities between the Mayans and the Egyptians, of which I've noted in the course before too. So this is to say that there is a mutuality between Africa and South America. That perhaps the natives of South America were not those who came from the Bering Strait.
Wow, well.
Okay,
and this
now.
is a very confusing topic of which I hope to get to in a future session. But note this coincidence.
There's no such thing as a coincidence.
That this rainbow serpent heals the sick, fixes the vision, which, by the way, the vision reference here, the vision serpent of the Mayan people. And that, what's this association with vision? Well, the Aboriginal Australians said and would give credit to the rainbow serpent for providing all manner of water. Okay, now how do you see things? Well, your eyes are pretty wet.
Yeah, and they're water.
You know, how does the rainbow come through? Well, the rainbow only happens by means of water.
Damn.
The refractedness of the rainbow's light happens by means of water. All the colors that you see are results of light coming through the vapor of the sky or through the boundary of the earth, the snake. And that this snake, this rainbow serpent, this Achumer, is this personification of the rainbow, and thus why it has an arcing shape. And that it is this kind of representation of the vapor of water and the rain cycle. What does the rain cycle look like? Oh, it looks like a circle. Rain falls from the clouds. Clouds, that creates dew, that creates puddles, which becomes vapor, and vapor becomes clouds. The serpent eating its tail. And that this is the umbilical cord, as mentioned, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's go off of that and talk other deities while I have a bit of time yet. So as mentioned,
I like that he put the water vapors and the evaporation and rain as a Ouroboros fractal. That's interesting.
Yeah, see, I told you he getting ready to wind it up now. We got about another 8 minutes left. Okay. And see that's what now he finna start putting it all, licking it all up. See how he put, like you say, how he connected all that and broke it down.
The sky and the water, right? And so this Olokun, this water deity, the watery abyss, the realm of the waters, the realm of sea spirits, that this deity.
And see, and if you notice, like I said about the movies again, you remember they had a movie called The Abyss? And when it went down, when they found those aliens and all, okay. I don't have to say nothing else.
The deep, the holder of the mysteries of nature, the knower of esotericism. This gives all sorts of vibes. The one who knows of the secrets of dreams, the one who knows the secrets of healing, of psychic ability, of meditation, the one who is capable of bestowing personal empowerment, the one who knows of the past, of the future. This gives me Thoth vibes. This gives me Hermes vibes. This gives me Odin vibes. Olokun.
Everything.
So it gives me EA vibes, but that's a bit of a stretch in certain ways. I mean, all of those associations are a stretch in certain ways. And so on the other end, as mentioned, we have Olorun, which is also tied to being a sun deity. And this is what gives life, livingness to all things. Things in heaven and earth. So you can think of that more as the Vita, or the life-giving energy. And then we have, as mentioned, the Nana Baluku, right? That I mentioned before, the great-grandmother, the creator goddess. And then we have associations here with she who had the tools to create the cosmos and the human race in her assistance. She is the patron of witchcraft or spellcraft in herbs, which is a tie to the ancient goddess, right? The ones who created agriculture. Now, this mention that I've given before of Mawu and Lisa, and interestingly enough, Mawu is the moon goddess, and Lisa, although it might sound feminine, is the sun god. And yes, I know I've already mentioned the sun god before.
Yeah.
Well,
what? It's funny that you said Mona Lisa, because it's always been a myth that they thought that Mona Lisa was painted almost like in a masculine, feminine way. Wow, deep ain't it? Deep ain't it?
Mm-hmm.
And that they were said, these cosmic twins were said, as I mentioned once before offhand, that they were the first
Tina,
man and first woman, the moon goddess and the sun god.
Wait.
Moon goddess.
Wait. The moon god and the moon god and the sun goddess is found in
it says the moon goddess and the sun god.
Okay, so that's I thought he said the moon god. So we said Lisa is the sun. Lisa is the sun.
Let me back it up. Let me back it up.
Maybe a couple seconds.
Yeah, we'll go right here. Okay.
Enough. Mawu is the moon goddess, and Lisa, although it might sound feminine, is the sun god. And yes, I know I've already mentioned the sun god before. Well, this is
So they brothers. The brother and sister part of it is found in Japan, and they in reverse. So a concept like that. Let's say we could create a like a map on a board, right? And we with the Igbo is, I'm sorry, we're talking about the Yoruba, and the sun is god, and the moon is a goddess, and they brothers and sisters. And in Japan, Amaterasu and Komiumi is brothers and sisters, and they sun and moon too, except for the brother is the moon and the goddess is the sun. So how I would look at that is like, okay, Japan way over there, Africa way over there. They both got brother sister with the sun and moon, but they're in reverse.
Right.
So that's just a note. Like we'll just highlight that until we find something to connect to it.
There you go. Should we learn
and
from
that
each
they
other?
were said, these cosmic twins were said, as I mentioned once before offhand, that they were the first man and first woman, the moon goddess and the sun god.
You see, and in tarot, which is divination, the twins are Gemini, and they call them the lovers. See what I'm saying?
Are they brother and sister?
Well, they call them the lovers because they're the twins. But that's just what. But in tarot, which is divination, they represent Gemini. The sign Gemini is what everybody call the twins, but they're one level. They're a female and a male. But they call them. They call them the lovers in tarot when you're doing a love reading. See what I'm saying?
Wow. So are you talking about twin flame concept? And
there you go.
Yeah, listen. The Inuit of the Alaskan Eskimo, right, or the Eskimo rather, they have it to where the sun is which one is it? I think the sun is a female in that as well, and the moon is the brother, and the brother is chasing the sun. The moon is chasing the sun, seeking to have sex with it, even though they brothers and sisters. And so that's salutes. So that's ancestral, right? And so looking at, I'm gonna use the term loosely, looking at how Gentiles look at things when they do shit like that, and they're telling me they off like a motherfucker, because ain't no way that shit cool, right? Like to teach the people to be like, yeah, the moon chasing his sister to have sex with her.
That's that incest shit I was talking about earlier.
So the only way out of that, not even a way out because they're already in it, right? But if they're saying that they will never happen, where the brother never catches sister, then that could be an indirect way of saying these two never get together. Mm-hmm. You see how they could be teaching it like that? They could be, right? But they are from the Orient, and we already know.
Okay, we know twisted everything.
And that Mawu, this moon goddess, is the one that this is the creative goddess as well in mirroring of Nana. Be the Caucasians to do that. And that with the help of a primeval serpent and a divine monkey, she would help shape the living creatures out of clay along with, right? And then you have this other mention of Olokun, which I mentioned once before, an ocean goddess. So there it is again. You have a god associated and a goddess associated with all things, right? There was.
You said what now, babe?
No, I was just saying Olugun.
Two sun deities. Now there's two water deities, huh? Each and every time, masculine and feminine. That's right. Get used to it.
That's why they say that we all embody masculine and feminine. See?
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. Yeah. The thing about Africa is that and I'm talking about the Congo right now. I know their spirituality predate Egypt, and I've known that for a long time. But you know, it's like talking about it. It's a touchy situation with some people, so you just keep some shit
It's
under
right.
under lock and key, right?
Well,
But
not only that, and even when we was in school, they made us think that Egypt was somewhat separate from Africa when it's all Africa, really.
then they, the Congo's creation story is awesome. I remember this one from the Yoruba, but I remembered it. I thought that was the Congo one, the one where he got drunk and then he created man drunk first. That
Right.
type of shit. I kind of remember. I
But
remember
see,
that, but I thought it was the
you know,
Congo.
see,
But
you more fluid and more different cultures of things than I am. See, but see, he does a lot of sessions on different cultures too. I haven't listened to all of them. Like I say, I listen to a lot of them, but like with this one here, this is my first time listening to this one. So I mean, he has a whole bunch. He has a bunch of. I mean, I air also. We gonna get together again.
Yo, listen, he sound decent. Yo, he sound better than the little meatball Manly P Hall.
Oh, you know, see
You
that?
feel me?
See, I like Manly P Hall.
I
But
do. I mean, listen, I listen to his shit too, but I'm just
yeah,
tired of hearing his voice.
yeah. But
I'm tired of hearing his
but he
more
kind
of
of
that.
he disagreed on some things. But he studied. But he told me he studied Manly P Hall too. He told me that.
Yeah,
He said
I think
he believed that most people that are into this have studied Manly P
right.
Hall. But
Most people done heard that.
right, but most people, he will also contradict him too in some of his lectures. He'll
And
tell you
that's
about things that he didn't disagree that he disagreed with that Manly P Hall,
and
but he thought
that's
that they
healthy.
had wrong.
Right. That's healthy. That's
Right,
healthy when you hear that, because when you hear people agreeing, that's with regurgitation. They're not putting their own thought into it. And Manly P
right,
Hall ain't flawed or
right.
flawless, right? So the Congo, this is the reason why I even brought it up. The Congo, they talk about the creator deities being a male and a female. There was a wife and a husband.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what all these other religions seem to be forgetting, right?
Exactly. But they left it out. They left all the other religions had it. Buddha had a spouse. All of them had a spouse. The only one that didn't have a spouse was Jesus, and he did, but they left it out.
Mm-hmm.
And that
So
was Mary.
they made it a male dominated.
Exactly, because it wasn't nothing but a political thing with King James. And see what it did. Why you think they demonized women so much? Try to demonize women so much in the Bible. Where Mary Magdalene was Jesus' spouse. Even if you listen to when the disciples say that he favored her more than he favored everybody else.
Yeah.
Of course he favored her because he was sleeping with her. That was his wife.
Ineffable wisdom.
I wish I would have remembered that when Yo told me Jesus was homosexual and shit. I would have brought that up on his dumb ass.
You know what I'm saying? Look, now we got some. I don't get you some ammunition.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. I'm gonna go pull them back up.
There you go.
Like the former with Olokan. The Olokan, in that way, is both masculine and feminine, or is a separate entity and a separate entity, or the same entity that exhibits both. Who knows?
Probably the inhale and the exhale.
And that specifically she, would be a guide to those of the dead. That those of the dead go back to the waters. Huh? I mean, you came from the waters. You came from the waters.
Where you came from? What? At the birth, right?
You return to the waters, especially if we are a society that considers reincarnation.
Yep.
That shit deep, ain't it?
Now, the last one I want to mention is Eshu. And this is what is mistranslated as an evil deity, or what Abrahamic religions would like to call the devil or Satan.
There you go. You said he was going to go.
However, this is more likened to a trickster, which is interesting that we have a trickster here, because not only do we find this as a potential route for what would substantiate Loki in the Norse tradition, but since we've made so many ties to the Aboriginals of Australia, to the Polynesians, then, this trickster essence, right? So in Aboriginal Australia, we saw it with the crow. With the Polynesians, we saw it with Maui. In the Americas, we see coyote. In Norse, we see Loki. And maybe, just maybe, we can trace all these back to Africa, as it would be naturally implicated.
You heard him say that Loki? And see, I always talk about all these superheroes. You know, they ain't no symbolism too. You know that Thor. You know Thor, the one with the hammer. You know, he was his brother, the bad brother. His name was what? Loki.
With this sort of trickster deity here,
And what we say when people low key and shit, right?
They be doing some dirty shit when they low key.
Right.
That he will deal misfortunes to those that are spiritually unattuned.
Hey, check this out.
Mm-hmm.
What is a low key? A low key is a deep, low bottom sound, like a lower self.
Right, that's what I'm talking about. You have the higher self and the lower self. Which we had the shadow, you know, the shadow man is the lower man. Then with your higher self, you know, that's the spiritual side.
He is in fact a divine messenger, that he enforces the law, that he knows of the esoteric secrets and of herbal medicines.
Doesn't say to do it.
And that
prophets say the deities can be seen as the duties, things that we must do, the duties.
That's tough.
You put that together now.
Yeah,
You're right.
That's tough.
I told you these words, everything. I tell you words, it's meaning behind all words. You got to dissect them words now. I did what you call it. Never. You listen to Never Guarded.
No.
Never Guarded deep too now. And he talk about how words, but which C.G. Darlin, who we're listening to now.
Okay.
He did a spiritual studies on words and how these words impact things today. Just like he said, you could put, I think, in Neville Goddard say like the word, like we say word, W-O-R-D, and you put an S in front of it, what it make it? Sword, right? So that's what I'm saying. You got to dissect them words. That's why you have to be careful of your words.
Already. Be the one in charge of unpredictability.
What's that? Prove her, Tina.
So what comes with change? What comes with grief? What comes with things falling out in life? Well, the potential for positive spiritual development. So to call this an evil entity, right? That is very spiritually novice.
See there? We were just talking about that.
Now, also, he's the master of languages. So there's another vibe there. There's another Hermes vibe there. He brings messages that he is hiding or lurking around crossroads, gateways. So here's a tie to magic, to Heka of the Egyptians, to Hecate of the Greeks, being a goddess of the crossroads, the trickster, the unknown one, the one that is related to unpredictability, uncertainty, and magic. No secret that he's tied to esotericism. And, of course, the thing that I haven't got to mention throughout this session, all the Yoruba ties to the spiritualistic Santeria.
And see, you know what Santeria is, right?
Yeah.
Okay. The same way they tried to demonize voodoo, Santeria is somewhat like voodoo, but it's the Spanish version of it.
Right.
So with that, I hope this session has illuminated you as to the many ties back to Africa when it comes to religious tropes around the world.
And see, I like that he did, because he had said in some of the sessions that before he did this one, he said he was dying to do a session on Africa. And I'm glad he did his research on it. He came and he brought the fire.
Yeah, he sounded like he woke up while he did that shit. He like he ain't never heard none of this before.
He letting them know. You look at y'all trying to dog out the black people. You know, the color. When all this shit came from them.
Exactly. Narrative here, but I hope the fascination, the respect for the Yoruba people has been properly given out throughout this session.
Respect, yeah. You did all right. He sounds
Yep.
amazed. He sounds like
Yep.
he's surprised as damn
Yeah.
self.
Yeah, that's the end of that session there. So I think that was a pretty good one there.
It was.
Yeah, and I told you he was gonna tie it all in there together.
Yeah, it was. I mean, listen, I like it. I like it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I don't know. I'll probably do another one. I don't know. You going live? Well, I know you going live tomorrow.
I don't know. I don't know, y'all. I'm stuck at the seat tonight, man. So if ain't nobody live, I might go live again because I'm up here. I'm trying to get this shit hammered out, man. And I'm gonna spend if I go live tonight, I won't go live tomorrow. So I think I'm gonna do it, and then I'm gonna just lock the videos after I go live for real.
Well, I went live twice. I'm due for the night because I really was just gonna play this. The y'all came up on the panel, so this hour here turned into almost 4 hours. So but it was a good topic. It was a good discussion. But I think I might put something together to maybe for tomorrow evening sometime, and we'll do another panel and stuff. I do another spiritual studies by him.
Okay, bet.
It was
fun. It was fun kicking it with you up here, man. For real. Yep.
I appreciate you coming up here. I appreciate all y'all rocking with me. Tina, Prophet. You know, I know Sarah that she was in the background. I know a lot of times people be in the background and just don't say nothing. They just be back kicking back listening. Because I noticed after my live be over, I be having a whole bunch of views, but I don't know if I don't see them in the chat. But I be having 60, 100 views, but I don't ever see them.
Man, listen, don't you know what? It's gonna be like that. I don't know who these people are. When I meet a channel, I say what's up in the chat if they live, and if they not live and I like their content, I say what's up in their comment section and just say peace or whatever on the content. But I feel the same way you do. When I cut off my live today, I had like 200 something.
Right.
But the people that's in my chat is the same people that be there all the time.
Yeah, because know when I come over, I try to visit, everybody that support me, I try to go and support y'all, So if I don't stay, I'm hollering that I came through.
You already. And I ain't gonna do shit. If I go, I probably am gonna go live because I'm stuck. But if I do, I ain't teaching nothing. I hope I'm gonna put the link out, and if people want to talk, then they're gonna talk. But I ain't got nothing to say. But since I be here, I'll be going live just to be a waypoint until somebody you like go live. That's right. What I'll be thinking.
But I noticed everybody would be going live around the same time, and I'll be trying to clash with people. I'll be trying to do mine, I'll be going, go at the same time as everybody else. Like I said, I'll be trying to spread the love around, But right. Tina said she probably gonna come up tomorrow. Like, yeah, that'd be good. We come up there. That's what I say. That's why I like having people up there so I can stop it and we can have a little discussion on what y'all think about it. We can dissect it and put our brains together.
Right. Already.
Right.
So you be safe, you be blessed, Queen. Thanks for letting me up. Salute to you, salute to Prophet, and salute to the chat.
Yeah, peace and blessings, y'all. I will see y'all again tomorrow. You know that. As always, go within so you won't go without. This your girl, if it's Queen. Holla at me, all right?